Rebuilding the Immortal Cultivation family. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 576, Elixir. After all, Wei Ningchen is a very good candidate at the moment. He has an extraordinary identity, a high status, and he still has feelings for Li Changshuo. Although there is no guarantee that his feelings will last long, with the protection of the Dao Oath and the Heart Demon Oath, at least Li Changshuo can be guaranteed not to be hurt in this relationship. And Li Zhirui also believes that as long as he is given some time, he will be able to grow up thoroughly and have enough strength and confidence to protect Li Changshuo and the Li family. Outsiders can only see Wei Ningchen's unpredictable expression and don't know what the two said. "Dad, what are you talking about?" Li Zhirui shook his head and said nothing, turned around and walked straight to the auction hall. Fellow Taoist Jin Yuan, the fat monk who always treated people with a smile in front of outsiders, looked at him very seriously and said, "You should know that the Chamber of Commerce has always remained neutral. No matter the identity or status of the other party, we only follow the rules of the Chamber of Commerce. We will not get involved in any struggle between any forces. But what you did today seriously violated this principle, fellow Taoist Jin Mian. I know I was wrong." Jin Yuan felt uneasy and looked at Jin Mian with pleading eyes. "The impact of this matter is too bad and will greatly damage the image of the Chamber of Commerce. Therefore, the 12 sequence elders have decided to remove all your positions and just be an idle guest. If this matter happened in private, perhaps Xuanfa Pavilion would not be so heartless and just give a few verbal warnings, but it happened in front of so many monks. If it is not handled seriously, I don't know what rumors will spread, and it will affect the auction held by Xuanfa Pavilion, which has spent so much manpower, material resources and financial resources, and turn it into a joke." As soon as these words came out, Jin Yuan's face turned pale and he was on the verge of collapse. You know, before this, his position was an elder. Although he was just an elder without real power, his status was much higher than that of a guest official. Moreover, the former was the direct line of the Chamber of Commerce and enjoyed all kinds of benefits, while the latter was not even a collateral line, but just an employment relationship. Jin Mian sighed and said, "This matter was decided by the elders of the sequence and cannot be changed. However, if Dao works hard and accumulates merits, he can be reinstated. Thank you for your advice, Brother Dao." Jin Yuan regretted it in his heart. Why did he make such a stupid decision in a moment of excitement? During this period, have the spirit beast eggs that the family intends to buy come on stage? Li Zhirui quickly returned to the private room and asked. "It hasn't appeared yet," Li Changru asked. "Uncle Jiu, has the matter been handled?" "It's okay, just attend the auction with peace of mind." Seeing that Li Zhirui didn't want to talk more, Li Changru closed his mouth tactfully and listened quietly to the bidding sounds that came one after another. After several spiritual objects were passed, the room was silent. Until a sealed third-level spiritual fire, Qing Lingayan, appeared. Finally, Qing Lingayan is here. Li Changru couldn't hide his excitement, and showed a look of determination. For this reason, he refined a large number of magic weapons in the past 6 months. And with his previous savings, he prepared more than 300,000 spiritual stones, and he was determined to get Qing Lingayan. Because the life magic weapon he refined, the 9 fires burning heaven pagoda, needs to be matched with 9 kinds of spiritual fires to exert its most powerful power. But after so many years, Li Changru has only collected 2 kinds of spiritual fires, and the others are replaced by the golden elixir true fire of the family's golden elixir cultivators, and the power is greatly reduced. When the auctioneer announced that the starting price was 100,000 spiritual stones, Li Changru opened his mouth without hesitation and said, 200,000 spiritual stones. Most of the prices of third-level spiritual fires are around 200,000 spiritual stones, so this price is close to the upper limit of Qing Lingayan. As soon as Li Changru opened his mouth, most of the cultivators gave up the idea of competing. After all, the green spirit flame was not a very precious spiritual fire. Of course, there were also some cultivators who did not give up, and thought that this was Li Changru's strategy. They deliberately called out a very high price at the beginning, making people mistakenly think that he would get it no matter how many spiritual stones he spent, and thus gave up the competition. 220,000 spiritual stones. Li Changru followed up without hesitation. 280,000 spiritual stones. Now, no one questioned Li Chengru's determination. This price was almost doubled. If they added more, if someone didn't want it, they would lose a lot. Congratulations to this fellow Taoist for getting the green spirit flame. The auctioneer was overjoyed. You know, the amount of income of the auctioneer is closely related to the premium of the auction item. The higher the premium, the more spiritual stones they get. Then he kept going up and down the spiritual objects. Hundreds of treasures with dazzling spiritual light were put on the stage one by one, and each one aroused enthusiastic response. So far, no one has been unsold. I think everyone must be tired after staying for most of the day. Let's go back and rest for 2 hours before continuing our auction. This is mainly to keep the monks who are bidding in a good state, so as not to be listless and make the auction not lively at all. During this period, you can go back to the spiritual ship to rest, or you can go shopping on the street stalls. Remember, don't take the initiative. Li Zhirui warned all the clansmen that he didn't have the ability to get people out of the black prison. Then he went to the street stalls alone, and Li Zhirui really found a lot of good things, such as several seedlings of 4th level spiritual medicines. What terms do you want to trade for this seedling? The stall owner was an older foundation building cultivator. He bowed to Li Zhirui and said, 1 Jinden realm technique, 20 foundation building pills, and 5 Jinden pills. Li Zhirui raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He was actually making plans for the forces behind him, and the 3 things he proposed were more expensive than this 4th level spiritual medicine seedling. Of course, the price of a 4th level spiritual medicine that can be kept for seed is not so simple to estimate. It's just that the growth time of spiritual medicine seedlings is long, and there are all kinds of uncertainties in the middle. Before it matures, it is possible that the previous investment will go to waste. This is the reason why this spiritual medicine has not been bought. Not only him, but other seedlings that have not been bought yet either look unhealthy or the stall owner asks too much. The problem of seedlings is not a problem for Li Zhirui, who has space. As long as the seedlings are still alive, the power of space can save them. Li Zhirui is not a sucker. Even if he can take out these things, he can't agree directly. I can give you both the skills and the foundation building pills, but there will not be 5 golden pills, only 3, Li Zhirui said. If you are willing, we can trade now. If not, forget it. Okay, the man nodded in agreement quickly, because so far, Li Zhirui had offered the highest price. Chapter 577 5th level spiritual medicine. In addition to this spiritual medicine, Li Zhirui also bought a lot of 4th level spiritual medicines on the street stalls, most of which had some problems. It was precisely because in the eyes of most cultivators, these spiritual medicines were difficult to save or required a huge price, which gave Li Zhirui the opportunity to lower the price. At a relatively cheap price, he got these 4th level spiritual medicines. Senior, please stay. Just as Li Zhirui was about to return to the auction hall, a Jinden cultivator suddenly called him. Do you also have a 4th level spiritual medicine? If the price was right, he didn't mind spending another sum of spiritual stones to buy it. But unexpectedly, he actually transmitted a voice. Senior, I have a 5th level spiritual medicine seedling in my hand. Li Zhirui's expression did not change, but his eyes suddenly became serious. If he was not lying, then this 5th level spiritual medicine might be his biggest gain on this trip. It is not convenient to talk in detail here. Come with me to the spiritual ship. Please forgive me, Senior. He went to the door alone, and not only would he get nothing, but he would also get himself involved. Then let's just find a restaurant. As it happened, there was a prosperous restaurant not far away. Li Zhirui even opened a private room and used his magic power to isolate the 2 from the outside world to prevent possible eavesdropping in the room. You know, in the area ruled by the Li family, in addition to opening various shops and selling spiritual objects, they must have opened a restaurant. The purpose is to use it to sniff out various news and collect intelligence. And this method is definitely not only used by the Li family, but also by all forces, big and small. Can you tell me? The Jinden monk nervously took out an exquisite jade box from the storage bag in his arms, held it tightly with both hands, and slowly opened it. I saw a plant that was snow-white and flawless, only 3 inches long, without flowers or leaves, only fine roots, and a straight main stem. With such a special appearance, Li Zhirui recognized this spiritual medicine at first sight. The 5th level Twixen snow grass, a spiritual medicine that can purify the soul and strengthen the soul. However, at this time, the state of the snow grass was very poor, and it looked like it was about to melt. It was obvious that the other party had not preserved it well, or had no ability to preserve it. After all, the snowgrass was a 5th-level spiritual medicine, and it was notoriously delicate. It had to be kept in an extremely cold environment to survive. Even after it matured, it had to be kept in black ice, otherwise the medicinal effect would begin to fade within 7 days. What are your conditions? Li Zhirui looked calm, and there was no sign of his desire for the snowgrass in his heart. You know, even Yuanying cultivators can take the snowgrass, but it's just not absorbed that well. If Li Zhirui could get this spiritual medicine, he could quickly enhance his soul to a very high level and speed up his cultivation. The giant cultivator quickly took the jade box back and said, I want 50 bottles of 3rd-level spiritual pills that increase mana, a complete and correct Yuanying perception, and a Huang treasure pill. If that's the condition, I can't agree. Li Zhirui stood up immediately. He could meet and agree to the first 2 conditions, but not the last one. Not to mention that he didn't have the infant transformation pill. Even if he did, Li Zhirui would not trade it, but would keep it for his own use. The man was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Li Zhirui to be so decisive. He didn't even bargain with him and got up and left directly. But he didn't know that this was just a trick. Senior, please stay, the man hurriedly said. I wonder what the price is in your mind. I don't have the infant transformation pill. I can give you the perception, but I can only give you 35 bottles of the 3rd-level elixir, Li Zhirui said. If you don't want to, then forget it. Anyway, it won't take a few days for the Twixen snowgrass to completely melt and turn into a pool of snow water. The man was a little unwilling. He finally got a 5th-level spiritual medicine, which gave him hope of breaking through the nascent soul, but the reality was much more cruel than he imagined. As soon as he got the Twixen snowgrass, he went to Xuanfa Pavilion, but they didn't like it at all, because Xuanfa Pavilion had already formed large-scale planting and the price was very low. He also thought that in a few days, there would be an extremely grand auction, and there would definitely be many forces coming, and there would definitely be someone willing to pay a high price, so he rejected the Xuanfa Pavilion. As a result, when the various divine transformation forces came, he ventured to sell them, but no one gave him a satisfactory price, so he kept delaying until today. When he was planning to choose the one with the highest price to sell, he met Li Zhirui, who was buying spiritual medicine everywhere, so he thought of trying his luck. The price given by Li Zhirui also did not reach the price he had in mind, and was even worse than some of the previous ones. But he also understood that the condition of Twixen snowgrass had been getting worse and worse in the past few days, and the other party would definitely not give the original price. Have you considered it? Li Zhirui opened his mouth to exert pressure at the right time. After struggling for a while, the monk said, I can feel the sincerity of the senior. Shall we trade now? Okay. Li Zhirui took out the spiritual pill first, and then took out a blank jade slip, and engraved the nascent soul perception into it. This perception is certainly not the one he gained after learning from many people, but the complete perception he gained when he helped a certain female Yuanying. There is no problem with the perception, it's just too mysterious. It's not a simple thing to comprehend it thoroughly. Of course I believe in the senior, there is no way not to believe it. Can he make Li Zhirui swear? After saying that, he sent the jade box over. Li Zhirui planted the Twixen snowgrass in the space as soon as possible, and buried a lot of spiritual stones around it to ensure that the spiritual energy can be adequately supplied. As for the giant, he left the place in a hurry as soon as the transaction was completed, fearing that Li Zhirui would regret it and attack him. After returning to the auction hall, Li Chengru asked curiously, Uncle Jiu, you look like you have made a lot of gains, right? Well, there are some gains. After all, spiritual medicines are more difficult to preserve, and there is a lot of room for price reduction. When it comes to this, Li Chengru couldn't help but sigh. He saw another kind of spiritual fire on the street stall, but the price was too high, so he could only watch it fall into the hands of other cultivators. Welcome back everyone. The auction starts now. After the auctioneer mobilized the atmosphere, he had someone deliver the first spiritual object of the second half of the auction. The next auction item is quite special. It is a 4th-grade spiritual beast. The auctioneer shouted passionately, you know, a 4th-grade spiritual beast can cultivate a 4th-grade spiritual beast equivalent to Yuanying's engine. And it has a long lifespan, which is very suitable to be a mountain guardian spiritual beast. Chapter 578 Competition. The 4th grade spirit beast egg to be auctioned next is a thick armored dragon turtle, which is famous for its longevity and defense. The starting price is 500,000 low-grade spirit stones. As soon as the last part of this paragraph was said, the forces that were originally a little excited seemed to be poured with a basin of cold water and calmed down instantly. You know, if even the mountain guarding spirit beasts have to participate in the war, it must be that the enemy has attacked the mountain gate and they are in a critical moment of life and death. At this time, what they need is a strong counterattack, not defense. In this case, why spend so much effort to cultivate a thick armored dragon turtle? It's not like there are no other 4th grade spirit beasts. Therefore, this auction was very dull. The Li family only spent 580,000 spirit stones to successfully win this dragon turtle egg. It can be seen that defensive spirit beasts are not very popular among cultivators. The next auction items are various spirit objects, but they have nothing to do with the Li family. Even before the end, Li Zhirui handed over the spirit stones, got the spirit beast egg, and left early. Li Chengru and others stayed, wanting to increase their own knowledge and know more spirit objects. The reason why Li Zhirui left early was very simple. First, there were no spiritual objects that the Li family planned to take at the auction today. Second, he wanted to see with his own eyes the spiritual medicines that had been planted in the space before. Even if the magical power of the space has never failed, these spiritual medicines are too precious this time. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is related to the future of Li Zhirui and the Li family. Naturally, there is no room for carelessness and mistakes. Thank you for helping me out and saving those clansmen. Li Chengshuo sincerely expressed his gratitude to Wei Ningqian. It's okay, it's just a little effort, and the sect is not on good terms with the Xian'an sect, Wei Ningqian said stupidly. For a moment, the two looked at each other in silence. But the atmosphere at the scene did not make people feel embarrassed at all. What did you say to your father just now? Wei Ningqian didn't want to lie, but now he didn't have the courage to say what he was thinking, so he had to shake his head and keep silent. Forget it if you don't want to say it. Li Chengshuo wrinkled his nose, feeling a little angry. Wei Ningqian panicked all of a sudden, but he opened his mouth again and again, but never gave an explanation. He was worried that if he expressed his feelings now, he might scare the other party and make the relationship between the two people even more distant. It is said that there are many relics of the ancient cultivation world hidden in this desert. I don't know if I have the luck to find treasures from it. Li Zhirui looked at the endless desert in front of her and whispered to herself. The place where Li Zhirui is now is called Huanggaziao. It is a very famous place in the East region and even in the entire cultivation world. The reason for its fame is that under the dry sand pile, there are many relics of the ancient cultivation world. It has been 100 years since the first relic was discovered. Until now, many relics are still excavated every year. It attracted many cultivators to come and try their luck. Li Zhirui also came under this situation. She hoped that she could find a spiritual object that would help her break through the nascent soul. But I don't know whether to say that Li Zhirui's luck is good or bad. She found a relic very quickly. However, the ruins were deep underground, and it was unknown whether it was an opportunity or a danger. Li Zhirui carefully made all kinds of preparations and walked in cautiously. Click, the moment she stepped into it, the door slammed shut. Are you not going to let people out? Or do you have to go through many tests before you can leave? Li Zhirui couldn't figure out what was going on, so she could only keep moving forward. Soon, she encountered the first test. A puppet with the same strength as the late Jinden. This battle was difficult for Li Zhirui, because the puppet had very changeable means, was not rigid at all, and had extremely strong defense. It took her a lot of effort to solve the puppet. After she defeated the puppet, she got a third-level spiritual object of good quality, but this was not the focus of the ruins, not to mention that it did not meet Li Zhirui's needs, so she naturally did not want to give up. But what happened next was far beyond her expectations. A fourth-level puppet was blocking the middle of the road. When it noticed that a cultivator was approaching, it activated instantly, but fortunately it did not take action directly. What treasures are hidden in this relic that are guarded by a fourth-level puppet? Li Zhirui was very curious, but the pressure she felt from the puppet made her dare not move forward. After a stalemate, Li Zhirui could only turn around and leave. Maybe there will be a chance to find out on the future. Time passed day by day, and the Li family stayed in Xuanfazhao for more than half a month. During this period, they successfully captured 2 fourth-level dragon beast eggs, the yellow jade dragon lizard and the thick armored dragon turtle. and missed the extraordinary Yan Huochu. In fact, in addition to these 3 dragon beasts, there are many excellent spirit beast eggs and cubs, but since the Li family has decided to specialize in dragon beasts, they have no extra energy to cultivate other spirit beasts, so they can only give up. And today's auction is the green water dragon that the Li family wants. Uncle Jiu, after today's auction, will you return to the family or stay to continue participating in the auction? Li Zhirui asked curiously. What do the tribesmen think? Some tribesmen want to stay and broaden their horizons, but many tribesmen want to go back to Banyan Island. Li Zhirui didn't care about this and said, the minority should obey the majority. He has already harvested a 5th-level spiritual medicine and several 4th-level spiritual medicines this time, which greatly enriched his spiritual medicine varieties and allowed him to continue to deduce new pale recipes. The auction's appeal to him instantly decreased a lot. However, the main reason is that Li Zhirui has already spent all the spiritual pills and spiritual stones in his hands, so even if he wants to buy, he can't. Okay, then we will organize a vote tonight to see what the tribesmen choose. While chatting, they have already walked to the auction hall. When the time comes, today's auction will officially start. The first auction item is this 4th-level spiritual beast Bishu Jiao egg with rich dragon blood, the auctioneer announced excitedly. Everyone. The father of this Jiao egg is a 5th-level dragon king. This sentence immediately pushed the scene to a climax. 5th level, dragon king, no matter which of these 2 words, when applied to the green water dragon, it will intensify its competition, not to mention that they have both. This means that this green water dragon, which has not yet been born, has rich dragon blood in its body, and it is easier to break through the shackles. When the auctioneer announced the starting price, people began to bid, one after another. It was very lively. 600,000 spirit stones. The Li family also tried to shout once, but was quickly suppressed. It seems that we have no chance of getting this spirit beast egg, Li Zhirui said helplessly. Chapter 579, please. The price of the green water dragon soared all the way, and soon exceeded the upper limit of the spiritual stones that the Li family could control. They had to give up and use the remaining spiritual stones to buy various other spiritual objects. When all the clansmen returned to the spiritual ship at night, Li Zhirui summoned all the clansmen and asked them whether they wanted to stay or return to Banyan Island. Although many clansmen wanted to stay in Zuanfazhao, most of them chose the latter. After all, so many days had passed, and no matter what spiritual objects they wanted to buy or sell, they had already completed the transaction. There was no point in staying. The minority obeys the majority. I already know what everyone thinks. I will inform you as soon as possible if there is any news. Li Zhirui told Li Zhirui about this. He thought about it and said, then give everyone 3 more days to rest and then set off to return. Yes, the Li family cultivators who got the accurate return time were all rushing to get the things in their hands done. Li Zhirui himself continued to refine the elixir, wanting to earn a sum of spiritual stones to replenish his storage ring that was about to run out of money. Because there were too many places where he spent spiritual stones now. If those spiritual medicines grow normally, they will all take hundreds of years. Even in a space with rich spiritual energy, it will take 200 or 300 years. Especially the 5th level twigs and snowgrass, which takes 500 years to grow. Half the lifespan of a Yuanying's engine. So Li Zhirui can only rely on spiritual stones to accelerate their growth. Fortunately, his reputation as a 4th level alchemy master is still quite famous. With a sign, even if it is only a 3rd level spiritual pill, the price is 50% more expensive than the market. Those giant and monks with rich family backgrounds and extraordinary origins are still flocking to it and admiring it. It's not that they are stupid, but the spiritual pills refined by Li Zhirui are worth the price. The advantage of water alchemy is that the poison is less, not to mention that he is refining the pill at a lower level. Each step is very perfect. If Li Zhirui is willing to invest more energy, it will be no problem to produce several top-grade spiritual pills in one furnace. During this process, the Li family also made friends with several Yuanying forces that did not have a very deep foundation. They were not much different from the Li family. They had just broken through the Yuanying stage not many years ago and were very lacking in various inheritances. And several of them had a more serious problem, that is, no successor. Many giant and cultivators were cultivated, but the successor Yuanying was still not born. If they were close to the deadline in another 100 or 200 years, and still no Yuanying was born, then the forces they belonged to would probably experience a great turmoil. Therefore, these forces were particularly enthusiastic about the Li family and Li Zhirui. Their purpose was also very simple, that is, they wanted to get a large and stable supply of high-grade elixirs from him to speed up the cultivation speed of the younger generations, and give birth to the second Yuanying before they passed away, so as to stabilize the status of their own forces. Dao, what do you think of this proposal? The Yuanying's engine, who is already a little old in a certain force, asked in a slightly flattering manner. I can feel your sincerity, but our families are far apart. Isn't it too dangerous to hand over a large amount of third-level elixirs to a giant and cultivator? In fact, what does this have to do with Li Zhirui? As long as they give enough spiritual stones and leave Banyan Island, no matter what happens, it has nothing to do with the Li family. Besides, the problem Li Zhirui mentioned is actually very easy to solve. They only need to pay a sum of spiritual stones to Xuanfa Pavilion, and they can safely deliver the elixir to the other party. The reason why he said so is simply because Li Zhirui is not very satisfied with the conditions offered by the other party. You know, high-grade elixirs are the best that each family is fighting for. He can sell them to anyone, so why should he take out a part of them to sell to you? That naturally requires an exchange of interests. The conditions offered by the other party are just 2 fairly good 4th-level spiritual medicines, plus 20 spiritual seeds each. One of them was bought by Li Zhirui at a street stall. The Taoist, once got an incomplete volume of the Danjing, but I am too dull to do anything in my life. I think with your talent, you will definitely be able to perfect it and make it shine. A trace of helplessness flashed in the eyes of the old Yuanying. He had come to the end of his life and only hoped that his family descendants could continue the inheritance. For this reason, he had to lower his posture again and said, there are 9 kinds of Dan recipes in the Danjing, 6 of which are 4th-grade precious pills, 1 is a 5th-grade precious pill, and the remaining 2 are too incomplete to be distinguished. What do you think? Sure enough. How could a Yuanying force like this that has existed for hundreds of years not have some good things in its hands? Look, after a little pressure, they took it out. Li Zhirui believed that the other party must have more precious spiritual objects or inheritances. After all, an incomplete Danjing is not necessarily precious. But he knew when to stop and did not continue to test. He only asked for the real Danjing, not the replica jade slip. The old Yuanying didn't think that the original book that he had studied for hundreds of years would have any secrets, so he readily agreed. Then Taoist friend, take a look, is there anything else that needs to be modified in this contract? Li Zhirui quickly wrote a contract and sent it to the old Yuanying. The two discussed it again and finally signed the contract. The Li family got 2 kinds of spiritual medicines and the incomplete original book of the Damn Sutra, while the other party got a stable supply of high-quality 3rd-level spiritual pills and some detailed treaties. In short, both parties were very satisfied with it. Li Zhirui personally sent him away. He didn't rush to look through the incomplete Dan Sutra, but waited for the next Yuanying cultivator to come to the door. After all, several families have the problem of no successors. Sure enough, in less than half an hour, Li Chengru knocked on the door and brought a Yuanying's engine who was also older. I can't welcome you from afar, please forgive me, Taoist Chongshan. Li Zhirui apologized as soon as he saw the visitor. Chongshan waved his hand disapprovingly and said, I was too impatient and came in directly. Li Zhirui gave Li Chengru a look and asked him to leave. He personally poured a cup of 3rd-level spiritual tea and said, Dao, are you here for the 3rd-level elixir? Yes, I'm sure you know that most of the high-quality elixirs on the market are controlled by major forces, and very few are leaked to the outside world. Chongshan looked at Li Zhirui with a meaningful look and said, it's rare to see a 4th-level alchemy master like you who suddenly appears and does not belong to a major force. Dao is right, Li Zhirui responded with a smile. Chongshan raised his eyebrows and said, it seems that you have found a backer. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 580, Crazy. Li Zhirui just smiled and said nothing. Of course, he knew all the problems involved, but he still dared to sell the 3rd-grade top-grade elixir wantonly, so naturally he had measures to deal with it. Although his approach was a little unkind. Relying on Wei Ningchen's pursuit of Li Chengshu, He attached himself to Wan Kui Peak of Wangxiang sect, or to be more precise, the future Wan Kui Peak. After all, Li Zhirui, the biological father who was extremely important in Li Changshuo's heart, would directly affect whether the two could be together smoothly in the future. However, he did not betray Li Changshuo's happiness, and only promised that if she was really willing to become a Taoist couple with Wei Ningjun, then he would not object. Li Zhirui only needed to use this tiger skin to block other forces. Could they go to Wangxiang sect to inquire about the specific situation for him, a small alchemist? Changshan did not ask further questions, but said, I saw the man from the Jiu family leave with a happy face. I think you have agreed to trade with him, in addition to the elixirs you left for your younger generation and the elixirs you offered to a certain powerful force, you still have extra elixirs. Can you trade with me? Changshan said something wrong. Li Zhirui did not need to offer to the Wangxiang sect, so there were some extra elixirs. Whether you can or cannot, I have to listen to your conditions before I can make a decision. Changshan was silent for a moment, and a trace of reluctance flashed in his eyes. He said, I think you know something about Kaianshan sect. You know that our sect is good at creating spiritual fields and modifying terrain. We are willing to use the magic of driving mountains and the method of nourishing spiritual fields to trade with you. Li Zhirui showed a touch of surprise on his face. This is the best thing he has taken out. Although it is incomplete, it is also part of the foundation of Kaianshan sect. What he didn't know was that the reason why Kaianshan sect took out part of the fundamental inheritance was not because they were stupid, but because they had nothing good to offer. Although Changshan looks younger than the man just now, in fact, his lifespan is less than 100 years. His current appearance is the result of wasting his mana to nourish himself, so that people cannot judge his lifespan. Therefore, Kaianshan sect was eager to cultivate a Yuanying's engine to replace him and maintain its own status. Then they spent more than half of their resources to buy a Huaing Baodan, and tried their best to improve the success rate of the breakthrough of the giant and elder who they had high hopes for. The result is obvious, failure. The giant and elder was struck by the thunder and turned into black charcoal, and 80% of the accumulation of Kaianshan sect was burned. Li Zhirui didn't know what happened in Kaianshan sect, but he knew that facing such a generous condition, he had no reason to refuse. With the magical power of driving mountains, the Li family can sort out the messy peaks on Wangxian Island that were distributed due to the merger of islands, and the method of nourishing spiritual fields is more important, which can improve the grade of spiritual fields and plant more and better spiritual objects. Soon, the two signed a contract and got up to send Changshan away. Chengru, don't bring the next nascent soul to the ship. If they ask, just say I'm concentrating on refining the elixir. Li Zhirui said to the person next to him. I know, we're leaving Xuanfazhou tomorrow. Let the tribesmen have a good rest tonight, Li Zhirui specifically reminded him. Because the way back will definitely not be as peaceful as the way here. There will definitely be robberies and ambushes on the way, even with him, the nascent soul true lord, in charge. Even if the God Transformation Patriarch leads the team, it can't guarantee smooth sailing. The reason why Li Zhirui said this is that at the auction a few days ago, Xuanfa Pavilion took out a 5th-level top-grade spiritual object, the Shenming fruit, which can be called the top-level treasure of heaven and earth. The nascent soul breaking through the God transformation is the process of turning the soul into yang, and the God transformation breaking through the refining void is a further step for the soul. When you can leave the physical body, travel thousands of miles at night, pick flowers and return, it is the time to welcome the ascension thunder tribulation. The Shenming fruit can greatly strengthen the soul, reduce a lot of practice time, and allow the God transformation cultivators to break through the refining void faster. Therefore, at the moment when the Shenming fruit appeared, several ancestors who participated in the auction showed their existence for the first time in front of all the cultivators. The terrifying pressure of destroying the world shocked many cultivators with lower strength. Even nascent soul cultivators like Li Zhirui were greatly affected, their blood and ki surged, and their mana almost lost control. I don't know if they still had reason or were concerned about Xuanfa Pavilion, but fortunately they didn't fight in the end. But the invisible war broke out at the moment the auction was announced, and several major forces of the transformation of gods came out one after another to compete for the final winner. The 3 mountains and 4 sects were the first to lose, followed by the sword sect, unable to compete, and in the end only the Wangxiang sect and Xian'an sect, 2 opponents for many years, were left. But the Wangxiang sect, which always had the upper hand, lost in this competition. The Shenming fruit was taken by Xian'an sect. Li Zhirui felt that the two families might break out in a battle. And he himself did not continue to refine the elixir, but recovered and maintained his full strength. But just after nightfall, a conspiracy was quietly unfolding. Many forces have left since the auction started, but Xuanfazhao is still bustling with people, bringing huge amounts of income to Xuanfa Pavilion every day. Seeing this, all the forces are very jealous, but they never dare to have any bad thoughts. Because the Xuanfa Pavilion, which does not show its true colors, is not inferior to the three major forces of the East region in terms of high-end combat power. But sometimes, there are such crazy people. Several Jindan monks who make a living by robbing wanted to go back to their old ways on the first day of the auction, and finally spent a lot of effort to suppress this idea. But it did not dissipate, but accumulated energy. These people discussed every day how to grab the most spiritual objects while ensuring their survival. Until one time, one of them brought a demon cultivator in, which completely ignited the crazy ideas in their hearts. They no longer planned to rob a few monks, but wanted to rob the entire Xuanfazhao with a mad heart. If they really accomplished this, their names would be recorded in history. How many people did the sect send? A conversation suddenly sounded in a corner. Everyone who can come has come, the person opposite said, and not only the sect, but other forces have also sent people here. Then next, we just have to wait for those idiots to destroy the huge mountain protection formation of Xuanfazhao. Those cultivators carried specially refined explosive magic weapons. On the surface, they controlled it themselves, but in fact, the control was already in the hands of the demon cultivators. Will it succeed? The man couldn't help but feel a little worried. If one of them succeeds, the power of the formation will be greatly reduced. Chapter 581 Turmoil. One of the demon cultivators took out a mirror with several flashing lights on it, showing the positions of the robber cultivators. They are about to get close to the node of the formation. Of course, they knew that destroying the eye of the formation would be more efficient, but the eye of the formation was located deep in the Xuanfa state, and there were countless powerful cultivators nearby. If an outsider got a little closer, he would be captured, and it would be impossible to complete the task. The defense of the node was not so strict, so it gave them an opportunity. Be prepared, as long as they step into the range of the node, detonate the magic weapon immediately. Got it? The demon cultivator who is responsible for controlling the magic weapon had a crazy and excited look in his eyes, and the magic power in his body was ready to go. On the other side, those stupid and used cultivators were carefully avoiding the patrol personnel nearby. Their hearts were beating wildly, and the fanaticism on their faces made people feel scared. They thought they were doing something shocking to the world, and they didn't know that they were just poor puppets. One of them hid in the corner, staring at the front, looking for an opportunity to break through the obstacle. Plop, plop. At that moment, he seemed to be trapped in a dead space, and only the sound of his heartbeat could be heard. Now, looking at the empty road, he rushed out instantly, with a sacred look on his face, as if he had seen the scene of himself being amazed and admired by countless cultivators. Do it. But what he didn't know was that at the same time, a hurried and excited voice sounded 100 miles away from him. Boom! When the magic weapon exploded, the expression on his face didn't have time to change, and his body was already torn into pieces, and then a stronger shock wave crushed his flesh and blood into pieces. And this formation node was also severely damaged in the explosion, causing the formation to be unable to fully unfold, and a loophole appeared. Detonate the magic weapons of the other people. The first explosion has attracted the attention of the Xuanfa Pavilion. They will definitely strengthen their defenses at the first time. Those robbery cultivators can no longer get close, so it is better to explode now and cause chaos. Although it is late at this time, it is not yet the midnight curfew. There are still many cultivators in Xuanfazhao, and the presence will delay the action of Xuanfa Pavilion. Boom boom boom, several explosions in succession plunged Xuanfazhao into complete chaos. Some cultivators only wanted to escape to avoid being in danger, but some cultivators were so bold that they wanted to fish in troubled waters and obtain some spiritual objects. But no matter which one, to some extent, it exacerbated the chaos of the scene. How dare you be so bold in my Xuanfazhao? A roar of thunder spread throughout the land. Then a pair of huge eyes made of thunder appeared above Xuanfazhao, looking down coldly, as if looking for something. At the same time, it also made the chaotic scene a little more orderly. Demon cultivators. You are looking for death? After just a few breaths, the sound of thunder rang again, and the sharp and piercing sound made everyone extremely uncomfortable. The giant eyes shot out several rays of divine light, turning into running thunder, knocking out all the demon cultivators, and then grabbing them and sending them back to the center of Xuanfazhao. They need to investigate how these demon cultivators sneaked into Xuanfazhao. You know, they have arranged several means to identify demon cultivators and eliminate them to the greatest extent. But now there are still demon cultivators. Either they have a way to evade detection, or they have their insiders in Xuanfa Pavilion. Both are very serious situations, especially the latter, which is likely to trigger a top-down purge. Uncle Jiu, something bad has happened. Li Zhirui was awakened by the successive explosions. He ordered several elders who accompanied him to count the number of people, and then hurriedly rang the small bell hanging on Li Zhirui's door. Li Zhirui suddenly opened his eyes, calmed down his mana as quickly as possible, opened the door and let Li Zhirui in. What happened? Did the tribesmen have a conflict with others? No, something big happened in Xuanfazhao, Li Zhirui said with an uneasy look. There were several explosions in Xuanfazhao just now. Someone must want to cause chaos. After hearing this, Li Zhirui's face suddenly became serious, and he said in a deep voice, "Are all the tribesmen on the spirit ship?" I just asked several elders to count the number of people. Then they heard the thundering sound of the ancestor of the transformation of the gods. When he felt a little better, Li Zhirui immediately walked quickly to the deck and looked at Xuanfazhao with a serious expression. He suddenly had a very bad premonition in his heart. Uncle Jiu, the elders have already counted the people. All the clan members are on the spirit ship. Li Zhirui breathed a sigh of relief and said decisively, "Let's leave now, Dad." What happened? Why are we in such a hurry to leave? Li Chengshuo was also resting in the room. She was awakened by the elder who had just counted the number of people, so she was not very clear about the current situation. Before Li Zhirui could answer, the roar of the old ancestor of the transformation of the gods told her the answer. What kind of demon cultivator dares to be so bold? We can't wait any longer. Start the spirit ship and leave now, Li Zhirui hurriedly ordered. Chengru, you and Shu'er go to the other two spirit ships, drive the spirit ships yourself, and follow me closely. Yes, the two immediately flew onto the spirit ship. Seeing that the main ship continued to rise instead of flying directly to the east, although they were a little puzzled, they still obeyed Li Zhirui's orders and followed closely. The various forces that followed the Li family to the Xuanfa Pavilion were in a panic at this time. Because they are different from the Li family, there are still many cultivators who have not boarded the spirit ship and are still in Xuanfazhao. Uncle, what should we do now? Should we abandon that part of the clan and follow the Li family directly, or wait for them to come back, be abandoned by the Li family, and fly alone for tens of thousands of miles? This situation happened within each force. Some chose to follow the Li family, while others stayed and agreed with each other to act together at that time to form a large fleet to reduce risks. Li Zhirui ignored these small tales and directly raised the altitude to the limit where the spirit ship could fly steadily. They were now thousands of feet away from the ground. If they continued to rise, the strong wind would not be something that the third-level spirit ship could withstand. Fly at full speed towards Banyan Island. While Li Zhirui was controlling the spirit ship, he looked down. As expected, there were already countless demon cultivators squatting outside Xuanfazhao, waiting for the opportunity to rush up immediately. After a few breaths, in Li Zhirui's eyes, the demon cultivator was like an overwhelming black wave, creating huge waves and rushing towards the isolated island of Xuanfazhao. Chapter 582 Tragic. What a close call. If it had been a little later, they would have been surrounded by the demon cultivators and unable to escape. Although they might have gained unexpected benefits if they stayed to help Xuanfa Pavilion, the risk was also great, and the demon cultivators were obviously coming with great force and were prepared. There must be several demon cultivators who had reached the level of god transformation, otherwise, no matter how many demon cultivators came, they would have died. And with the current size of the Li family, participating in a war of this scale would only make them cannon fodder, so it was better to leave as soon as possible and not participate in it. Uncle Jiu, are you safe? Li Chengru's nervous voice came over. Li Zhirui found that they had left the ambush side of the demon cultivators, and said, "Tell the tribe members that everything is fine now." The tribe members, who had been in a state of nervous breath-holding, exhaled a breath of foul air when they heard this. Don't look at it. The Li family left immediately. Unlike us who were invited to stay and help Xuanfa Pavilion resist the invasion of demon cultivators, the burly man of Wangxiang sect looked at Wei Ningchen who was looking around. and couldn't help but joked, "You like that girl so much? Will you agree if fellow Taoist Li wants you to marry into his family?" "Brother, what's going on?" Wei Ningchen changed the subject directly. "I don't know the details, but it should be the work of demon cultivators. Be careful, there's a high possibility of a war next." Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, the army of demon cultivators rushed forward, with 6 demon cultivators in the god-transforming stage leading the way, followed by dozens of nascent souls, hundreds of golden cores, and tens of thousands of foundation building and key training cannon fodder. "NG. You are so brave. You dare to plot against my Xuanfa pavilion." Xuanfazhao immediately flew out several spiritual lights, a total of 7 gods. And this is only the gods of Xuanfa pavilion's own ancestors. If the invited gods are counted, the number has exceeded 2 palms. Everyone says that Xuanfa pavilion is aloof from the world, so let me ask for your advice. With this order, countless demon cultivators seemed to have lost their minds and rushed into Xuanfazhao frantically. All those who blocked them were crushed into pieces. Although Xuanfa pavilion's high-end combat power was not inferior to the other party, its low-level strength was somewhat weak, so it could only rely on the cultivators who remained in Xuanfazhao. For this reason, Xuanfa Pavilion offered a lot of conditions. Driven by interests, a large number of cultivators participated in it and barely withstood the invasion of demon cultivators. "Be careful in this battle," the tall and strong man warned. Wei Ningchen's expression, which was always indifferent, became solemn at this time. Hualala, a heavy rain fell in an instant, kicking off the prelude to the war. The sword lights intertwined and flew, stirring up blood and the sound of heads falling to the ground. Spells of various colors collided in the sky, briefly dispelling the darkness of the heavy rain, but the blood on the ground became thicker and thicker. Wei Ningchen picked a powerful giant and demon cultivator and controlled a sturdy puppet to fight with him. The puppet attacked as fast as lightning, like a beast, punching at the demon cultivator's fatal point. The demon cultivator reacted quickly, dodging cleanly, and the mighty magic power flowed in his body, and a black dragon flew out of his body. Roar! A roar resounded through the sky, and a terrible force of death and silence enveloped the vicinity. All the creatures nearby felt very uncomfortable and left far away, leaving the battlefield to the 2 of them. I saw a spiritual light filled with death, shooting directly at Wei Ningchen. Wei Ningchen did not dare to be careless at all. With a thought, several puppets with different postures appeared around him, and they all blocked it. After a fierce battle, Wei Ningchen won the final victory, but in order to kill the demon cultivator, he paid a heavy price. "How is it? Are you okay?" the burly man took the time to ask. "Brother, don't worry. You can't hurt me now. After only half a day, you can see blood all over the ground, dyeing the whole land red, and the remains of the corpses added a sense of sadness. A breeze blowing by will become full of stench, whistling sharply, as if tens of thousands of souls are struggling in the wind, roaring unwillingly. But the war has just begun. Uncle Jiu, why did those demon cultivators suddenly attack Xuanfa Pavilion?" Li Zhirui asked curiously. After leaving the dangerous area, Li Zhirui no longer controlled the spirit ship, because the next journey was not so urgent, and he could even stop to enjoy the scenery. Li Zhirui shook his head and guessed, maybe it's because the demon cultivators got some news and knew that Xuanfa Pavilion had natural treasures such as Shenming fruit, so they became greedy. No one could have imagined that the starting point of this war was a few crazy robbery cultivators. "Dad, I haven't planned to go back to Wangxin Island yet, so let's get off the boat here," Li Chengshuo said suddenly. "Then be careful." Li Zhirui was very open-minded. He did not force her to go home with him. He only reminded her, "Don't go near Xuanfazhao in the short term, understand?" "Don't worry, Dad, I will take good care of myself." The spirit boat stopped by the roadside. After Li Chengshuo finished speaking, he turned into a spiritual light and disappeared quickly. "Uncle Jiu, you let Cheng Sheng and Cheng Shuo go out to practice, aren't you afraid that they will encounter danger?" Li Chengru was a little confused. "Of course I'm afraid, but if you don't polish jade, it won't become a tool. If you don't polish it well, isn't it a waste of talent?" Li Chengru was thoughtful after hearing this, as if he thought of something. "You take care of the fleet, I'll go to refine the elixir." Li Zhirui did not point it out directly, but let him comprehend it himself. Refining the elixir is because on the way back, they just happen to pass by the mountain gate of Kaianshan sect, and they can complete the first transaction by the way. While they haven't arrived yet, Li Zhirui plans to refine more elixirs to earn more spirit stones. A few days later, the fleet arrived in front of the mountain gate of Kyanshan sect. Unlike the mountain gates of the major forces that I have seen before, here, all I can see are mountains of different sizes. It is said that this is caused by the practice of Kyanshan sect. At the beginning of their practice, the cultivators of Kyanshan sect have to establish a certain connection with an ownerless hill. They can cultivate the mountain and make it stronger to feed back their own practice. At the same time, the bigger and higher the mountain is, the higher the practice of its owner is. Li Zhirui saw the towering mountain at first sight, and its owner was Changshan, the only Yuanying's engine of Kyanshan sect. Why did you suddenly come to visit me, Li Daoyao? Changshan appeared soon and looked at Li Zhirui and his party in surprise. One is to complete the transaction with you, and the other is to tell you something important. Li Zhirui now has a total of 50 bottles of high-quality third-level elixirs on hand, and they will trade according to the agreed price. While Kyanshan sect was counting the spirit stones, Li Zhirui talked about the second thing. The demon cultivator is attacking Xuanfaz Hao. You should be careful. What? Changshan was shocked, and after a long while he said, "Thank you for your reminder." Chapter 583. Bottom line. Fellow Taoist, why don't you take a few more days off before leaving? Changshan saw that Li Zhirui was about to leave, and immediately tried to persuade him to stay. Thank you for your kindness, but I've been away from home for so many days, and I feel uneasy. I want to go back earlier. Changshan wanted Li Zhirui to stay, just to have more fighting power, so that he could help when he encountered danger, but he rushed out from Xuanfaz Hao with his clansmen, just because he didn't want to get involved. How could he stay now? Seeing that he couldn't persuade him to stay, Changshan had to send Li Zhirui and his group away in person. Uncle Jiu, why did you tell them about Xuanfaz Hao? Li Chengru asked in confusion on the spirit ship. I just happened to pass by, and I reminded them by the way, so that they wouldn't suffer heavy losses because of the magic cultivation and be unable to afford the transaction with the family. The two families have signed a contract. If Kyanshan sect can't come up with enough spirit stones, then Li Zhirui will have to find a new buyer for the third-level spirit pills he refined, and because he is not sure of the quantity, he can't sign a contract with other forces, and can only sell them in small quantities. This will not only be troublesome, but also attract the attention of other forces. Therefore, if something happened to Kyanshan sect, unless it was directly destroyed or its vitality was seriously damaged, it would not be a good thing for the Li family. Now think about it. Banyan Island is located in the far east corner of the remote countryside, which is also a good thing to some extent. At least it is far away from the major forces and provides a relatively stable external environment. Continue to fly to Banyan Island. For the rest of the journey, Li Zhirui no longer needs to pay attention all the time. He just needs to release the pressure of the nascent soul to shock some cultivators. It may be because of the sudden attack of the demon cultivators that many forces did not escape. The Li family did not encounter any danger all the way east and returned to their own territory in peace. The various vassal forces following behind gradually decreased until finally, there were only 3 spirit ships of the Li family. Finally back, Li Chengru breathed a sigh of relief the moment he stepped onto Banyan Island. Outsiders had no idea how nervous and uneasy he was along the way, fearing that a few nascent soul cultivators would suddenly fly out in front and block his way. Thank you for your hard work, ancestor. Li Zufang and a group of elders hurried out to greet them. Because Li Zhirui and others came back early, they had no time to prepare anything else. Everyone, go back and rest. Li Chengru opened his mouth and drove away the onlookers. The family only took 2 kinds of dragon beast eggs this time, namely the thick-armored dragon turtle and the yellow jade dragon lizard. Some other spiritual objects were not photographed, and some other spiritual objects were also bought. Li Zhirui handed everything to Li Zufang and asked him to deal with it. At the same time, he asked, has anything big happened to the family in the past month? Yes, Li Zufang's expression condensed, and said, a few days ago, the Sea clan sent a third-level water monster to visit. Oh, Li Zhirui raised his eyebrows slightly. What did it say? The Sea clan hopes that the family will not expand to the open sea anymore, and at the same time limit the number of monks on Redwood Island. Otherwise some violent measures will be taken. These 2 requests are, for one thing, to curb the monks' exploration of the open sea. With the development of the Li family, it is difficult to see the existence of water monsters in the surrounding seas, so the monks launched explorations in the distance and advanced towards the open sea little by little. The Li family knew about this matter from the beginning, and even the mastermind behind it was the Li family. Because compared with the land, the resources in the boundless sea are obviously richer, and the Li family is the only force based on the sea within a radius of thousands of miles. The foundation is on the sea, so of course they have to find a way to develop the boundless sea, especially the offshore area. And this touches the bottom line of the Sea Clan. If the near sea is a mixed area of human and Sea Clan, then the offshore can only belong to the Sea Clan, and human race is absolutely not allowed to enter. So after noticing the Li family's restlessness, the Sea Clan specially sent a third-level water monster to warn them, which is a courtesy before force. If the Li family is stubborn, the Sea Clan will never show mercy. There is no need to even break the contract between the human race and the Sea Clan. Just driving a large number of low-level water monsters can sink Banyan Island. Hearing this, Li Zhirui was silent for a moment, and said, "In this case, let's stop exploring the distant seas and continue to develop the nearby seas. With the strength of the Li family, they can't even afford to offend a slightly larger group of the Sea Clan, let alone the entire Sea Clan. If the Sea Clan is really angered, even if the Li family is destroyed, the major forces of the human race will not help to avenge, and will not even ask a question. Anything else?" During the conversation, Li Zhirui and his group also walked into the family hall. The Xuanbing sect sent a true lord here not long ago. One is to reserve the 5 elements Jade Peach in a few decades, and the other is to invite the family to participate in the extermination of the Taixu state monster clan. The Xuanbing sect still hasn't given up. It seems that there are indeed some good things in the Taixu secret realm that they are thinking about. Li Zhirui thought for a while and said, "If I remember correctly, the Taixu secret realm will be opened in the next 10 years, right? Unfortunately, the strength of the Taixu monster clan should not be underestimated, and if they are forced into a corner, they will ask the monsters of the Great Snow Mountain to take action. Even if the two families join forces, they will not get any good results. Therefore, even though Li Zhirui has always known that there are many rare spiritual objects in the secret realm, he has no intention of taking advantage of it. What's more, it is the existence of the Taixu monster clan that allows the Li family to avoid bordering the Xuanbing sect and will not be harassed by the Xuanbing sect." "How did you deal with it? Why not Zhang Fengwu?" "Because when they set out for Xuanfa state, Zhang Fengwu happened to have a burst of inspiration and was in seclusion to comprehend, and he has not come out of seclusion until now." Li Zhifeng replied, "I said that the Jade Peach spirit tree is your personal spiritual object, and the family has no right to decide. As for the latter, we refused on the grounds of insufficient strength. Well, if the Xuanbing sect comes to talk about these two things again in the future, just continue to prevaricate. If there is nothing else, I will go back first." Li Zhifeng said quickly, "Ancestor, please stay for a while, there is another important matter." "Go ahead." Li Zhirui took back his action of getting up, but didn't want to hear Li Zhifeng's words that he asked the elders to leave first. "The next thing is my personal matter, please give way to the elders." The elders had different expressions, and various speculations came to their minds. And most of them were related to the fact that Li Zhifeng had been the clan leader for many years and was about to step down. Is he trying to ask the ancestor to let him continue to serve as the clan leader? Li Chengru frowned and quickly denied this speculation. Based on his understanding of Li Zhirui, Uncle Jiu would never agree. Moreover, Li Zhifeng is a smart man. He knows that bringing up such matters will not only fail to gain Li Zhirui's help, but will instead disgust him and hasten his downfall. Chapter 584, Pride. "Everyone is gone, just tell me what you want to say," Li Zhifeng said in a deep voice. "Please cast a spell to isolate the inside and outside." Li Zhirui looked at Li Zhifeng with an unchanged expression, and the spiritual light surged on his fingertips, and then he held the two upside down. Last year's spirit testing conference gave birth to a member of the Heavenly Earth spiritual root. Li Zhirui's face changed slightly, and he said, "Are you telling the truth? You know, in the hundreds of years since the Li family was established, there has never been a member of the Heavenly Earth spiritual root. This is the first time." The reason why Li Zhirui was so surprised was that for the Heavenly Earth spiritual root, cultivation was as easy as eating and drinking water. Before breaking through the nascent soul, there was no bottleneck. If you don't care whether the foundation is solid or not, with sufficient resources, it only takes 20 years. It can be cultivated to the late stage of the golden color. If it is replaced by a cultivator with ordinary qualifications, it may not be able to break through the foundation in 20 years. It is conceivable how terrifying the qualifications of the Heavenly Earth spiritual root are. Seeing Li Zhifeng nod, Li Zhirui calmed down and said, "Besides you, who else knows about this?" "Only a deacon named Li Wenjian and the elder in charge of testing the spirit know. The process of the Li family's testing of spiritual roots has been kept secret to the greatest extent. The original spirit testing array would show the type of spiritual roots, but after Zhang Fengwu's modification, it would only distinguish whether or not one has spiritual roots. If one has spiritual roots, he would enter a closed small room to further test the type and purity of the spiritual roots. In the room, besides the spirit tester himself, there was only one deacon responsible for activating the spirit test ruler and recording. Then the records were handed over to the elder in charge of testing the spirit, and after his integration, they were finally sealed up, and no third person could pass through their hands during this period. After being sealed up, no one was allowed to view it privately. Even Li Zhirui could not violate it. Because this was designed by him, of course he had to take the lead in complying with it, otherwise, he would only fail in the end. If the whereabouts of the clan members are revealed, the crime is equivalent to betrayal of the family. Not only will his cultivation be abolished, but his 3 generations of blood will also suffer. This time, because of the appearance of the heavenly spiritual root, the matter is of great importance. Elder Selling was a little unsure and wanted to report it directly to Li Zhirui, but he was not on the family at that time, so he could only tell Li Zufang about it. Pay attention to the 2 of them, and at the same time change the appearance of the child with a heavenly spiritual root. It's not that Li Zhirui doesn't trust them, but just to be on the safe side. And in this way, after more than 10 years, when he returns to his original appearance, the 2 of them should not be able to recognize him. Yes, heavenly earth spiritual root? What a coincidence. The yellow jade dragon lizard is a 4th grade earth dragon beast. Li Zhirui asked, "What's his name?" "Li Mingyao?" Li Zufang secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and a little excitement surged in his heart. He knew that his grandson could contract this 4th grade dragon beast. That's right. Li Mingyao, who has the spiritual root of heaven and earth, is the grandson of Li Zufeng, and he is a direct blood relative, not a cousin like a nephew or a grandson. After Li Zufeng knew the spiritual root of his grandson, he tried to find a high-grade earth-based spiritual beast for him. Among the spiritual beasts he knew, the best grade was the yellow jade dragon lizard auctioned by Xuanfa Pavilion. He had always been worried that the family would miss this dragon beast, until he saw the dragon egg today. Li Zufeng relaxed. Because the next thing is very easy, just tell Li Zhirui about Li Mingyao's qualifications, and he will definitely give the yellow jade dragon lizard to Li Mingyao. Jingjixi Ufangyu, Chunchi Shizichen, Daxu Win Mingsen, Hongsen Tai Ungsen. Li Zhirui counted silently in his heart and said, "The 14th generation of the clan, I will try my best to delay the hatching time of the dragon lizard. When Mingyao starts practicing, I will give him the dragon egg to hatch." There is a similar secret method in the Wanling Sutra that can delay the birth of the spiritual beast without affecting the egg. In fact, Li Zhirui saw through Li Zufang's little trick, but he just didn't expose it, because no matter what, as long as he's of the Li family's bloodline, it's fine. Train Mingyao well, don't waste his talent, but don't rush for success. The one who wins first doesn't count, and the one who laughs last is the winner. At the end, Li Zhirui added, "Wait until he comes out of Linghu Academy, and you can come to me if you have any unsolvable problems." I thank the ancestor on behalf of Mingyao. Li Zufang bowed excitedly, looking more excited than when he got a 4th grade dragon egg for Li Mingyao. Because in this way, Li Zhirui and Li Mingyao are a master-disciple relationship in name only. And the preciousness of a Yuanying teacher is of course more precious than a 4th grade dragon egg, and the 2 are simply incomparable. The former has rich experience and can solve most problems in cultivation, allowing you to avoid detours, while the spirit beast only speeds up the cultivation speed a little. But the problem is that Li Mingyao, who has a natural spiritual root, has already cultivated very fast and does not need this kind of bonus at all. If everything is fine, I will go back, Li Zhirui said with a little fatigue. Although he did not show up on the way, he had to release pressure continuously and could not practice, so the consumption was a bit large. No more, Li Zufang hurriedly got up and sent him out of the hall. On the way back to the cave, Li Zhirui took the dragon lizard's egg back. When faced with the tribe's inquiries, Li Zhirui only said that he would use it for another purpose. He did not even make up what it was because the more he said, the more mistakes he made. After getting the dragon lizard egg, Li Zhirui immediately used the secret method to delay the time for the dragon lizard to break out of the shell. After doing this, He began to rest. At the same time, next to Li Zhirui's room, Zhang Fengwu was in seclusion in the quiet room. What went wrong? There was no problem during the deduction process, so why did it suddenly fail when it came to setting up the formation? Zhang Fengwu looked at the pile of ashes in front of him, which had accumulated due to failure, and couldn't help but fall into deep thought. He kept reviewing in his mind, trying to find the problem. If it succeeded this time, then opening up the spiritual realm would be the first difficult step. From the arrangement of the formation base, to the activation of the formation, and finally the reaction of the formation during the explosion, various scenes kept playing back and forth in Zhang Fengwu's mind. Found it, Zhang Fengwu shouted happily. When the power of the formation was gathered, a small section of the formation pattern could not withstand such a huge energy, and then caused a series of reactions. And this is a situation where no matter how many times the deduction is done, when it is really done, there will still be problems. Next, Zhang Fengwu only needs to strengthen this part of the formation pattern, adjust the entire formation, and then continue testing until there are no problems, then it will be considered a success. Chapter 585 Loss. It's easy to say, but when it comes to actual operation, it took more than half a year to complete this step. Zhang Fengwu used the readjusted array pattern to refine a new set of array plates and array flags, but she did not set up the array immediately, but came out of retreat to find Li Zhirui to help. Because she was worried that the energy bursting out of the array was too strong, she could not control it alone, and finally caused some disasters. After returning to Banyan Island, Li Zhirui, who had rested well, began to study the incomplete Danjing. His purpose was not to restore the Dan recipe in it. After all, the Li family lacked several main medicines, and it was useless to restore them. The main purpose was to learn things like the proportion of spiritual medicines and refining techniques. These experiences will help Li Zhirui deduce the Dan recipe in the future. Like the 4th level spiritual medicines he selected in Zhuan Fazhao, they all have the effect of increasing mana or slightly yangizing the soul, which can come in handy. But restoring the Dan recipe is not an easy task, because it has an established framework, and it requires a better understanding of the medicinal properties of various spiritual medicines and the relationship between them. Then, from the countless kinds of spiritual medicines, find a certain one or several spiritual medicines that are just right and fill them in. Sometimes Li Zhirui feels that this is more difficult than deducing a pill formula from scratch. He thought it was okay after several attempts, but in the end, he found that he had found the wrong spiritual medicine. Although he was mentally prepared before he started and knew that it would not be successful in a short period of time, several months later, it was still a long way from the successful recovery, which really hit Li Zhirui's self-confidence. Moreover, this success is still about simulating alchemy, that is, the various medicinal properties will not conflict. As for whether the precious pill can be refined, it must be refined with real spiritual medicine to get the answer. No wonder it is said that restoring the pill formula is more difficult than creating the pill formula. Li Zhirui sighed from the bottom of his heart. He used to be dismissive of this. After all, creating a pill formula is a process from scratch, but now he understands that having nothing means that he can play freely and give full play to his imagination. But to restore the recipe, you must stand in the perspective of the recipe. You have to find it from countless kinds of spiritual medicine according to what it gives. This difficulty is no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. However, this process is not without some benefits. At least Li Zhirui has a deeper understanding of the medicinal properties of various spiritual medicines and the relationship between them. Knock knock. Just when Li Zhirui was about to make persistent efforts to restore the recipe, someone knocked on the door of his alchemy room. Is there something big happening again? A few months ago, Li Zufang came to knock on the door and told Li Zhirui about the situation in Zhuanfazhao. In front of the powerful Zhuanfa pavilion and several major forces to help, the attack of the demon cultivators did not gain much benefit. It is said that when the demon cultivators retreated, only one of the 100 survived. The lives of most low-level demon cultivators were left on the land of Zhuanfazhao. There is even a rumor that a demon cultivator who has reached the level of a god has fallen. Coupled with the death of many monks, the entire southern part of Zhuanfazhao has become a purgatory on earth, with mountains of corpses and seas of blood everywhere. The huge bloody evil spirit has covered the world with a layer of red mist. If left alone, I don't know how terrifying a monster will be born in the end. The loss of Zhuanfa Pavilion is also an astronomical figure. The auction, which was halfway through, could not continue. Although a large number of precious spiritual objects were not worried about not being able to be sold, the price was definitely no longer too expensive, which greatly reduced the profit of Xuanfa Pavilion. There are also compensations for various buildings and casualties destroyed by the war, as well as the rewards promised by inviting various forces to stay before, which is also a considerable expense. Finally, the land was polluted by corpses, blood, evil spirits and other filth. Just to purify such a large area, the financial resources consumed is an astronomical figure. Of course, as a chamber of commerce, Xuanfa Pavilion must have no shortage of spiritual stones and spiritual objects. This sudden attack by the demon cultivators will not cause it to suffer a serious injury, and it will recover in a short time. It's just that Xuanfa Pavilion, which used to be the focus of the world, has now lost face in front of countless forces. If nothing unexpected happens, Xuanfa Pavilion will definitely retaliate against those demon cultivators who embarrass them. Li Zhirui really couldn't understand why the demon cultivators paid such a high price. But if he knew the purpose of the demon cultivators, then everything they did would be understandable. The demon cultivators suffered such heavy casualties, on the one hand, because their strength was too low, and on the other hand, they did it on purpose. They deliberately provoked a war that they knew would be a disastrous defeat, in order to cultivate a monster that could make the demon cultivators who had perfected the transformation of the spirit more smoothly break through the refining of the void. In order to accomplish this, let alone countless low-level demon cultivators, even those few demon cultivators who had transformed into spirits were expendable. The demon cultivators finally retreated, not because they suffered heavy losses, but because the monsters had grown out of the blood and corpses of countless cultivators, and there was no need to continue fighting. However, these secrets were too far away from the Li family, and they were not known to them, so Li Zhirui and others would feel very confused. Speaking of which, but when Li Zhirui opened the door, it was not Li Zufeng who appeared in front of him, but Zhang Fengwu, who was still in seclusion to deduce the formation. Fengwu? You came out of seclusion? How is the formation deduction? But seeing that she was so anxious to find him, she should have made good progress. I have completed the first step of the formation to shatter the space. Now I need to try it to see if there is a problem with the formation, Zhang Fengwu said. I am worried that I can't control it alone, and I need your help. The steps of the Li family to open up the spiritual realm are actually completely imitated from the well-known method. In simple terms, it is to first make a crack in the space by the ancestor of the transformation of the spirit, and use this as a base point to integrate it into the spiritual vein, and then expand the internal area, and finally stabilize the space, and a nascent spiritual realm is formed. According to legend, this method was created by a brilliant casual cultivator. In order to benefit the casual cultivators, he directly made the method public. Moreover, even if this high-end method is made public, there are not many forces that meet the requirements due to the high threshold. In addition, the news spreads too widely, so it is difficult to ban it. Therefore, the major forces are too lazy to take action to ban the spread of this method. Moreover, after so many years, the major forces have further improved this method and evolved it into a spiritual realm opening method with their own characteristics. Let's go. Li Zhirui also wanted to see the formation that could launch a blow comparable to the incarnation of the spirit. Chapter 586 Destined. Zhang Fengwu was worried that the two of them would not be able to control the formation even if they joined forces, which would cause many problems. In order to reduce the impact, he took Li Zhirui away from the clan and came to a deserted valley. If the formation gets out of control and you feel you can't control it, run away as soon as possible. Don't be stubborn and don't worry about me. I will be careful, Zhang Fengwu emphasized before setting up the formation. I know, Zhang Fengwu nodded and then began to set up the formation. One by one, the formation flags fell in every corner of the valley. The formation plate was placed in front of Zhang Fengwu, and then there were extremely complicated spells. Li Zhirui, who was watching from the side, felt dizzy and uncomfortable, and quickly looked away. Buzz, about half a quarter of an hour later, a low humming sound sounded, and then the spiritual light emerged from the formation plate, turning into a long thin line connecting the formation flags, and finally formed a hole, forming a formation. Pay attention, I'm going to activate the formation. After saying this quickly, Zhang Fengwu concentrated on the formation and poured a large amount of mana into the formation disk. Boom boom, accompanied by a roar. A black thunder flew out from the center of the formation and hit the position pointed by Zhang Fengwu. The moment the black thunder appeared, Li Zhirui felt a fatal threat. If he hadn't had some concentration and knew that Zhang Fengwu would not hurt him, he would have almost run away. Crack! Under the impact of the black thunder containing the power of destruction, the originally solid space was like a broken lens. In the originally colorless void, an extremely fine but eye-catching black line emerged. But under the power of the laws of heaven and earth, it was closing quickly. Success! Zhang Fengwu was full of joy. She didn't expect it to succeed at once. Although the space gap only existed for a few breaths, it soon disappeared, as if it had never appeared before. But if the premise is prepared, this time is enough. Boom boom, before Zhang Fengwu could be happy for long, the array plate and hundreds of array flags all exploded as if they were under great pressure. If Li Zhirui had not reacted quickly enough and cast a spell to protect her in time, otherwise this series of explosions would have been enough to injure Zhang Fengwu. The reason why the array plate and array flags exploded was simply because their grades were too low and they could not withstand the power of the spiritual transformation realm, even though Zhang Fengwu used several fourth-order spiritual objects when refining them. Perhaps if what fourth-order spiritual objects were used, they could barely withstand the explosion of this powerful energy once or several times, but in this case, the cost would skyrocket by more than 10 times. And this explosion also made Zhang Fengwu's face calm again. Because in order to open up the spiritual realm, the space gap is only the first step, and there are many things to do later, and they must be completed in a short time, otherwise the gap will close, and then all their efforts will be in vain. Don't worry. It's already very good to be able to achieve this level now. We can find a way to improve it slowly. Li Zhirui saw that Zhang Fengwu's face was calm, and she was in a bad mood because of the explosion of the formation, so he immediately comforted her. Zhang Fengwu shook his head and said, "It's not that there is no solution. Use more fourth-level spiritual objects to refine the formation plates and flags, or you can assist by the side to prevent the explosion of the formation from affecting me. But the problem is, how should we expand the area of space? It is impossible for her to rearrange such a complex formation within a few breaths and expand the space by force. With the cultivation of the two of them, the impact on the space is very small. Even if they try their best, it is probably not very useful. By then, the spiritual realm they have opened up will only be 1 or 2 feet in size. In addition to being able to accommodate a suppressing spiritual plant, it can't accommodate many spiritual objects. Have you forgotten the black stones that Shore brought back?" Li Zhirui reminded. "But there is no result to prove that those black stones can expand space." Li Zhirui was speechless for a moment. He couldn't convince Zhang Fengwu with the experiment in space, so he could only say, "Won't you know if you try it?" After all, this is the only thing in the family that has something to do with space. Zhang Fengwu glanced at Li Zhirui unintentionally. Based on her understanding of him, if he didn't have a 100% certain answer, he wouldn't talk about this matter one after another. But since Li Zhirui didn't want to talk about it, she didn't ask any more questions. After all, everyone has their own secrets. As for the spiritual plants that suppress space, it's easy to find. Li Zhirui has several fourth-level spiritual plants in his hand, but he can only take out the 5-element jade peach. This is the 4th-level spiritual plant in his hand that he has made public. He lied that he planted it in the spiritual plant jade card he carried with him. As for the few dragon breath spiritual teas, although there are more in number, there is no reason to take them out. But this is also good. Maybe the 5-element jade peach spiritual tree has a chance to transform into a spiritual root, and then the effect of the jade peach can be further enhanced. Okay, let me rest for a few days and see if there are any areas that can be improved, and then we will start to open up the spiritual realm. Zhang Fengwu accepted Li Zhirui's proposal. But where do you plan to open up the spiritual realm? The spiritual realm relies on the spiritual veins to exist, and the location of the sustenance is also particular. The more spiritual energy is produced in the place, the richer the spiritual energy will be after the spiritual realm is opened up. On the main spiritual cave of the 4th-level spiritual vein, this is the location that Li Zhirui had decided long ago. Because according to his calculations, if the spiritual realm is opened up here, the richness of the spiritual energy inside should be comparable to that of the 5th level. At that time, even if the area of the spiritual realm is not large, the rich spiritual energy can be used as an excellent retreat place, and there is no need to worry about the problem of insufficient spiritual energy. Zhang Fengwu has no objection to this, and it doesn't matter where it is opened. The two of them cleaned up the scene and left the valley at the same time. After returning to the cave, The two of them stayed warm for a night, and then they continued to do their own things. You were not injured in the previous battle in Zuanfazhao. Li Chengshuo saw Wei Ningchen, who suddenly appeared in front of her, with a little worry in her tone. Perhaps there really is a destined fate between the two of them. The East region is so big, and Li Chengshuo also followed Li Zhirui's instructions and deliberately avoided Zuanfazhao, but he still met Wei Ningchen. Are you worried about me? Wei Ningchen seemed to have come to his senses, staring at her with eyes full of burning emotions. He was no longer timid like before, but began to take the initiative. I guess so. After all, we are friends now. Li Chengshuo seemed not to notice the feelings in his words. I accidentally fell into the trap of the demon cultivator and suffered serious injuries, but fortunately I didn't die. In fact, Wei Ningchen was not trapped, but was attacked by a Yuaning demon cultivator disguised as a golden elixir. If it weren't for his life-saving means, he might have really died in Zuanfazhao. Li Chengshuo's worry was beyond words, and he asked anxiously, how are you now? Are you okay? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 587 Opening Up. It's nothing serious. Wei Ningchen showed his vulnerability appropriately. Why don't you go back and rest? What are you doing here? Something told me that I could meet you, so I chose to stay. Wei Ningchen looked straight at Li Chengshuo and said, now we can meet again, right? Li Chengshuo's face turned red, his mind was confused, and he didn't know what to say. Although she was a little slow in emotions, she was not a fool. How could she not hear such direct words from Wei Ningchen? It's just that Li Chengshuo was not sure whether she had a good impression of him, so she never responded to Wei Ningchen, and this time, she still chose to avoid answering. You should take good care of your injuries. Wei Ningchen's eyes flashed with a trace of discouragement, but he quickly cheered up. He has always been a resolute person and would not give up because of such a small setback. Then when I recover from my injuries, let's experience together. Okay, Li Chengshuo agreed without hesitation. After saying that, he felt a little anxious again, and immediately added, don't make me wait too long. It won't be too long. On Banyan Island. After the formation test was successful, Li Zhirui dug out the 5 elements jade peach spirit tree, along with this oil that wrapped the roots, so that it would be convenient for transplantation. Then he refined several furnaces of precious pills to restore mana, in case of emergency. In the rest of the time, while waiting for Zhang Fengwu to refine the formation plate and flag, he continued to comprehend the alchemy classics, and when he had nothing to do, he would go to instruct the younger generations of the family. In recent years, since there were no hostile forces of equal strength nearby, the Li family, as a hegemon in a corner, gathered a lot of resources, and the cultivation of the clan members improved rapidly. Moreover, there was no large-scale battle, and fewer clan members were sacrificed, giving them time to grow up, and the overall strength increased by 20%. Among them, the increase in the number of giant and clan members made Li Zhirui the happiest, because after they broke through, the contracted spirit beasts could also go further. You know, the spirit beasts that the clan members have contracted in recent generations are all third-grade spirit beasts. Therefore, the third level is not a natural barrier for them. After the contracted cultivator breaks through the golden elixir, it is very easy to achieve. Li Zhirui waited for several months before Zhang Fengwu appeared with a set of new and strengthened array plates and array flags. Do you want to rest for a few days? Li Zhirui was worried that Zhang Fengwu was not energetic enough and would have problems at that time. Zhang Fengwu shook his head and said, don't worry, I came out after resting enough, then let's go. Li Zufeng, who had received the notice before, had already been waiting for the two to arrive in the main spirit cave. Hello, to ancestors. After the greetings, he couldn't help but ask, if the spiritual realm fails to open up, will it affect the spirit vein? The main reason is that this spirit vein is too important. If there is a problem, the Li family will not be able to cultivate a new 4th-grade spirit vein in a short period of time. Even if it can, it will require a lot of resources. As Li Zufeng, who knows the family situation best, naturally does not want to spend these resources that can enhance the family's strength on rebuilding the spirit vein. Don't worry, we have tried it before and it was very successful, Li Zhirui comforted. Hearing this, Li Zhifeng could no longer stop him and could only pray silently in his heart that the spiritual realm could be successfully opened up. I will transplant those spiritual medicines to other spiritual caves first. The main spiritual cave is planted with the family's most precious 4th level spiritual medicines. Because of the rich spiritual energy, it can slightly shorten the time for them to mature. Although Li Zhirui is not a spiritual plant master, as an alchemist, he is very familiar with the habits of spiritual medicines and is the most suitable candidate. It took nearly a day to carefully transplant all the spiritual medicines. During this period, Zhang Fengwu was not idle either. Instead, he combined various factors to deduce how to arrange the formation to maximize the power of the formation. This is not an easy task to accomplish, especially when Zhang Fengwu is striving for perfection. It took 3 full days to get a result that satisfied her. In the past few days, although Li Zhirui repeatedly concealed it, many clan members still found clues. After all, the main spiritual cave was blocked and the spiritual medicine was transplanted, which was a big deal. Fortunately, most of them were high-level members of the family and did not dare to go against Li Zhirui's request and did not continue to spread it. Moreover, they did not know what they were doing. It's okay. After Zhang Fengwu determined that this was the best formation plan, he spent a day to restore his state to perfection, and now was the time to take action. Li Zhirui's face was serious, and he warned, Zhifeng, you stay away. There will be a lot of noise during the opening process, but no matter what happens, don't get close. At the same time, you must also prevent other clan members from getting close. It was the first time that Li Zhifeng saw such a solemn expression on Li Zhirui's face. The uneasiness in his heart surged again. He wanted to persuade him, but it would affect his momentum. He could only hold back his words and quietly stay away from this place. Get up. Zhang Fengwu sacrificed hundreds of formation flags with extremely complicated and mysterious formation patterns in one breath, and used his powerful spiritual sense to fix them in their respective positions. She did this not to show off her skills or to show how superb her array skills were, but for the continuity of the array. Many array masters would not care about this little problem because it did not have a big impact, but Zhang Fengwu was striving for perfection this time, so he naturally had to strive for excellence in all aspects. After confirming that there was no deviation in the position of the array flag, Zhang Fengwu breathed a sigh of relief, but then continued to muster up his spirits and set the array plate at the core. Hundreds of magic formulas were cast to activate the array. The next moment, a vast amount of mana poured out from Zhang Fengwu's Danshan, like an endless flood, pouring into the array plate. The precious pill that had long been held in her mouth and isolated by mana also turned into a warm current at this time, quickly replenishing mana. About a quarter of an hour later, the array plate brewed a thunder that seemed to be able to destroy the world. Even though Li Zhirui had been mentally prepared, he couldn't help but shudder. This was more terrifying than the black thunder he had seen before. Even though Li Zhifeng was far away, he could feel a strong breath of death and was terrified. Zhang Fengwu, with a pale face, controlled the thunder to hit the top of the spirit vein. There was no roar or explosion, and everything was normal. But a crack the size of a little finger appeared in the void. All the efforts Zhang Fengwu had made before were worth it the moment he saw the width of the crack. Because this was several times larger than the space crack they had previously experimented with. Zhirui, now, Zhang Fengwu shouted weakly. Li Zhirui, who had been ready for action, immediately flew forward and poured his own mana into it regardless of anything, constantly expanding the area of space. Chapter 588 Surprise. Li Zhirui stopped in a hurry until he saw the space gap was healing. Then he threw all the remaining dozens of black stones into it. Because the newly opened space was very unstable, the powerful space force instantly crushed the black stone, and a wisp of subtle space law spread in it, further expanding the space. Suppress. Li Zhirui didn't have time to carefully observe the changes in the space, and hurriedly threw the 5 elements jade peach spirit plant into the space. A series of complex and cumbersome spells instantly wrapped the spirit plant, protecting the spirit plant under the stormy waves. Then, the spell changed, fixing the spirit plant in the space, the root system spread, penetrated into the deepest part, and finally the tip was connected to the spirit vein, which was considered to fix the space, and the terrifying space distortion force also dissipated. Li Zhirui, who had completed all this, was exhausted and almost collapsed to the ground. Are you okay? Zhang Fengwu, who had recovered a little, walked over quickly and asked with concern. It's okay. Check out how the spiritual realm is developing first, Li Zhirui responded in a weak voice. He was just exhausted, not injured. He just needed to relax for a while. The spiritual realm that took them so much energy and effort was the top priority. In addition to the area of the spiritual realm, Li Zhirui was also concerned about whether the jade peach tree had been promoted to a spiritual root. You know, spiritual roots are not only treasures that can suppress luck, but also the spiritual fruits produced by spiritual roots are several times more powerful. If the jade peach tree is successfully promoted, then ordinary jade peaches can increase more mana, and the probability of the 5 elements jade peaches to improve the breakthrough of the spirit will also be greatly increased. Of course, after being promoted to a spiritual root, it will no longer take 90 years to bear fruit. The time will be much longer, possibly 200 years, or 300 years, or even longer. Zhang Fengwu checked Li Zhirui's body and found that he was indeed not injured. Only then did he feel relieved to check the spiritual realm and handed him over to Li Zufeng, who rushed over to take care of him. The space stabilized, and the spiritual realm that had already taken shape had a portal with a faint light, suspended above the spiritual vein. Zhang Fengwu did not rush to enter, but only carefully explored it with his spiritual sense. But it gave her a great surprise. The area of the spiritual realm was much larger than she had imagined. The internal space was about 1 mile in radius, and the spiritual energy was rich. Although Zhang Fengwu had never seen a 5th-level spiritual vein, she thought it was not much different. The black stone can really expand the space. The reason for the current situation, in addition to Zhang Fengwu and Li Zhirui's efforts to strive for perfection, is also closely related to the dozens of black stones. I don't know when the 2nd-level secret realm will be opened. At that time, all the foundation-building clansmen of the family can go in and bring out more black stones to further expand the space of the spiritual realm. This is the only relatively easy way that Zhang Fengwu can think of. The other way is either to invest a large number of spiritual objects or to promote the spiritual veins that are entrusted. In addition to the space area, there is another surprise waiting for Zhang Fengwu. The spiritual plant, which was originally lush and densely rooted, now looks like a rotten tree, withered and shriveled, and looks like it will not live long. But as long as you observe carefully for a while, you will find that under the withered surface, there is a huge and pure vitality, and a small section of green branches drilled out from under the dead tree. This means that the jade peach spiritual plant has successfully survived the tempering when the space was opened up and has been promoted to a spiritual root. Although it is still in the process of promotion and it is a long way from being fully grown, at least the Li family has a spiritual root. How is it? Li Zhirui was supported by Li Zufeng and walked forward, and asked impatiently. Very good, not only is the space area large, but the spiritual plant has also been promoted to a spiritual root, Zhang Fengwu replied with a smile on his face. Ho ha, good, Li Zhirui laughed loudly, and was so excited that he almost lost his mind. With the spiritual realm, the family will be able to plant more high-level spiritual medicines in the future, and the growth time will be further reduced. The benefits brought by these two are obvious. The news about the spirit realm must be kept secret for the time being. Don't let other clan members know about it, Li Zhirui warned. He did this mainly because he was worried that someone would leak the news. At that time, the Li family would definitely attract the attention of a large number of forces. If they just asked to hand over the method, it would be embarrassing at most, but if a large force directly took action and wanted to occupy it alone, the Li family would suffer. I will pay more attention to ensure that the spirit realm will not be known to too many clan members. It is impossible to hide the news completely, because those spiritual medicines need people to take care of them. After all, it is impossible to let Li Zhirui and others do such a small thing, right? Li Zhirui personally looked at the situation inside the spirit realm and was very satisfied with it. When the time comes, he will perform the method of nourishing the spiritual field several times, and after it becomes a 4th-level spiritual field, he will plant spiritual medicine. Now the spirit realm is still empty, with only a withered peach tree, and there is nothing to see, so he quickly withdrew his consciousness and took the time to recover. 3 days later, Li Zhirui fully recovered, and the first thing he did was to go to the spirit realm and perform the method of nourishing the spiritual field. After giving the spiritual field some time to digest, it was successfully transformed into a 4th-order spiritual field. Finally, the spiritual herbs that had been transplanted out were planted in the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm, which was 1 mile in radius, was neither big nor small. Li Zhirui tried his best to make full use of the space in order to plant more fourth-order spiritual herbs. Thank you for your hard work over the years. Now that the spiritual realm has been successfully opened up, you can focus on cultivation. Li Zhirui had never said this to Zhang Fengwu. Now that they were alone, he finally seized the opportunity. In order to deduce this formation, she had devoted all her time and energy to this matter over the years, so much so that she neglected her cultivation. Moreover, it was he who came up with the idea of opening up the spiritual realm, but in this process, Li Zhirui did not contribute much. In this process, I have also gained a lot. You don't have to feel embarrassed, Zhang Fengwu said with a smile. If it weren't for this experience, how could I have arranged a formation that could perform a blow comparable to the transformation of the spirit? Although this formation still has many problems, such as the high cost, the great energy impact, the formation flags and array plates can't withstand several times, the difficulty of setting up the formation, and it can only be activated once in a short period of time. But no matter what, this formation that can play a transformation of the spirit realm has become one of her biggest trump cards. What's more, these problems are not unsolvable. This is the best quality batch of the precious pills I refined, specially left for you. Having said that, Li Zhirui still felt a little embarrassed, so he thought of using this way to compensate Zhang Fengwu. Chapter 589 Volcano. Do you know where this place is? In an unknown market, Li Chengsheng randomly found a foundation building monk and activated the image stone in his hand. A beam of spiritual light shot out, projecting a mountain that was erupting with scorching fire and towering into the clouds. From time to time, flames jumped out from the ground. Obviously, this was a huge volcano that was in an active state. This was the place he saw after performing the divination technique. It contained the key spiritual object for the promotion of the Chaoyangwu bloodline. For this reason, Li Chengsheng also specially learned illusion techniques to conjure it up, and then recorded it with the image stone to facilitate asking the monks. After all, there are not many volcanoes, not to mention that the picture he saw was incomplete and there was not much useful information. This was the 10th year since Li Chengsheng left Banyan Island. He had been to hundreds of volcanoes, but none of them was what he was looking for. During this period, he encountered many dangers, but with his own strength and the life-saving methods given to him by Li Zhirui, Li Chengsheng finally survived. The long period of training also accelerated his growth. Although he had not yet broken through the middle stage of the golden core, he was only one step away. In addition, the Chaoyangwu and Lihuokao he contracted had both broken through to the third stage. Even the hybrid spirit beast Yanglahulbird that he contracted later had successfully broken through to the second stage. The most important thing was that the two kinds of spirit fire in its body remained calm and did not conflict. This surprised Li Chengsheng very much, and at the same time, it also gave rise to a strong curiosity. If he had not been running around all the time, looking for the solar spirit, he really wanted to stop and study it carefully. Speaking of which, the foundation building cultivator who was stopped by Li Chengsheng thought that he had accidentally offended a golden core. He was so scared that his 3 souls left his body and he couldn't speak. Li Chengsheng knew that he was scared when he saw his appearance. He felt helpless. He didn't know how many times he had encountered such a thing. He could only snort lightly to let people come back to their senses. Senior, the monk wanted to apologize, but was interrupted by Li Chengsheng. He said calmly, "Just tell me, do you know this volcano?" To answer your question, this place is called Volcano State. There are more than 300 volcanoes of all sizes, but it is occupied by a group of monsters. I am not very clear about this. Li Chengsheng couldn't help but frown when he heard it. If it was really like what he said, why didn't he see a volcano along the way? In front of a foundation building monk, he didn't need to hide his doubts and asked directly. "Senior, are you coming from the northeast?" Li Chengsheng nodded. When he was fortune-telling, in addition to the volcano he saw, he was also told to go south. Therefore, he is actually no longer in the east region, but in the south region. The living environment of the monks in the south region is much worse than that in the east region, because there are many monsters here, competing with the human race for living space, and wars will break out from time to time. Moreover, it is close to the western region demonic path, but it is not as powerful as the central region. So the demonic cultivators have established many sects and families in the southern region, further squeezing the living space of the cultivators. The harsh environment has led to most of the cultivators in the southern region pursuing combat power, not cultivating morality and character, and relying on strength for everything, unlike the cultivators in the eastern region or the central region, who at least hide it on the surface. However, the southern region is not without advantages. Its spiritual energy is second only to the central region, and its area is the largest among the 5 regions. It has rich spiritual medicine and spiritual mineral resources, and has created many powerful spells and magical powers. The volcanoes are all concentrated in the southwest, where a large number of fire monsters gather, including many 4th-level monsters, so we don't know much about the internal situation. For some reason, after hearing this, Li Chengsheng felt that the solar spirit might be in this volcanic group. I see. Li Chengsheng nodded, casually gave a 2nd-level spiritual object he had stripped from the monster, and walked around the market casually, looking for a place to trade intelligence. Since the spiritual object is likely to be here, what he needs to do now is to learn as much as possible about the situation of the 300 volcanoes, especially the strength of the monsters, and then find the big volcano in the divination. Li Chengsheng searched for several places and finally found the right one, which is located in an ordinary grocery store. Baiziolu. It is strange to say that the largest intelligence trading organization in the East region is Baiziolu, and he has been to the market in Fairy City in the South region, and all of them also have Baiziolu. Not to mention whether it is spread throughout the Zuinitan realm, but even if it only spans the East and South regions and monopolizes the intelligence market, its strength is far beyond the Wangxiang sect and Xian'an sect. Are you going to sell intelligence or buy intelligence? An old man wearing a black hat asked in his decayed and shriveled voice. I need the most detailed information about the 300 volcanoes, including maps, the characteristics and location of each volcano, and the strength of the monsters. The old man did not respond at all, and Li Chengsheng was not in a hurry, waiting for him to make an offer. After a moment of silence, he said, a total of 100,000 spiritual stones. This information is not precious, but the content is relatively large. Okay. Li Chengsheng readily transferred the spiritual stones into a storage bag and placed it on the counter. It's not that he doesn't want to bargain, but Baiziolu will never agree. If you are willing to buy, pay, and if you don't want to, turn around and leave. It will never be cheaper than a spiritual stone. After Li Chengsheng got the jade slip, he didn't check the contents inside and strode away immediately. Could this kid have found the specific location of the spiritual object in the volcano? The old man's voice sounded a little abruptly. As an intelligence organization, Baiziolu knows many secrets that ordinary cultivators don't know. Among them, there is a precious 5th-level spiritual object hidden in the 300 volcanoes. It's just that the treasure has spirits, and it is not obvious. Therefore, after so many years, neither Baiziolu nor the group of monsters have found the spiritual object. But what does this have to do with an old man like me who is about to die? The voice dissipated, and the room returned to deathly silence. Li Chengsheng, who left Baixiao Tower, randomly found an inn to stay in. After activating the defense formation, he took out the jade slip to check carefully. No, this volcano will not produce flames. The volcano is too small. Li Chengsheng compared more than 300 volcanoes one by one, and was really dazzled. In the end, he found 3 volcanoes that were exactly the same as the volcano seen in divination. At least in the information provided by Baixiao Tower, they fully met all the conditions. Fortunately, there are only 3. Li Chengsheng was very satisfied with this number. However, things are far from that simple, because 2 of the volcanoes are located deep in the mountains. And there are many powerful monsters in them. Chapter 590 Lies. These 2 volcanoes deep in the mountains are each occupied by a group of fire monsters. Intelligence indicates that one of them is a 4th-order monster. Although the other group does not have a 4th-order monster, there are quite a few 3rd-order monsters in the late stage, and they are also ferocious poisonous fire pythons. This is a very difficult monster. The fire poison and evil spirit that they are born with will permeate the environment in which they live, forming a natural barrier to resist other monsters. Even if the poisonous fire python is killed, the evil spirit will remain for many years. Why can the poisonous fire python group without 4th-order monsters occupy a large volcano? The reason lies in this. The strength of the poisonous fire python group is not strong, and any 4th-order monster can kill them. But the problem is that even if you take down this volcano, you can't move in for hundreds of years, unless you are willing to endure the pain of the fire poison and evil spirit. Of course, this is a problem for Li Chengsheng, but it is not serious. After all, He is just going to look for treasures, and he can just take elixirs such as the exorcism pill to get through it. The key point is the volcano with a 4th level monster. I'm afraid he will be discovered as soon as he approaches. As for the 3rd volcano located in the mountains, it is unremarkable, with only some 2nd level monsters living there. After a night's rest, Li Chengsheng went straight to the 3rd volcano the next morning with a fluke mentality. The reality is the same as he thought. The precious solar spiritual object is not among them. It seems that I can only take the risk to explore the territory of the poisonous fire python. After returning to the market, Li Chengsheng frowned and muttered to himself. His face was very ugly. The numerous 3rd-level poisonous fire pythons are a big trouble for him, and he has to go deep into the hinterland where there are a large number of high-level monsters. If he is not careful, he will be surrounded. Even with the life-saving means given to him by Li Zhirui, he may not be able to escape. But this solar spiritual object is of great importance. It affects Li Chengsheng's path, and he can't give up and can only take risks. Although there are other ways to break through the shackles of blood, such as learning Li Zhirui's decking and zhaoqing, constantly accumulating mana, strengthening blood, and promoting blood evolution. But Li Chengsheng saw the results of this method. The spirit beasts of the 4th level alchemy masters with a lot of resources have spent dozens or nearly 100 years, and they are still a long way from success. How many years will it take for him, a fortune teller and beast trainer? If there is no poisonous python volcano, it will be the worst situation, because Li Chengsheng can still be bold and take the risk to explore here, but the volcano with a 4th level monster, even if he can overcome his fear, it will probably be discovered soon. Li Chengsheng stayed in the market for a few days, perfected the preparations, and prepared all kinds of elixirs and talismans, and then set off for the poisonous python volcano. On the way here alone, he encountered several battles. Fortunately, the strength of the monsters was not too strong, otherwise he would not be so relaxed. After going through untold hardships and trekking through mountains and rivers, Li Chengsheng finally arrived at the foot of the poisonous python volcano. Just a little closer, a pungent and unpleasant smell drilled into his nose, and soon he felt unruly all over. How many years have those poisonous pythons lived here? The terrifying evil spirit condensed into substance, turning into thick fog to protect the volcano and block all creatures with evil intentions. Among them was Li Chengsheng. He couldn't even get in the door, and he said he was looking for spiritual objects. Since there is no way to enter from the ground, it is a good idea to enter from underground. Li Chengsheng started digging a tunnel in a relatively hidden place 1 mile away from the volcano, and it took more than half a month to build this tunnel alone. Fortunately, the poisonous fire pythons are disliked by monsters, and there are few monsters near them. Otherwise, Li Chengsheng would never be able to dig such a tunnel calmly. Through the tunnel, Li Chengsheng directly entered the interior of the poisonous python volcano. A few steps forward, there is the hot and boiling magma. After checking, he found nothing, which made him very disappointed. He reluctantly released Chao Yangwu and asked, "Chao Yuang, do you feel any attraction?" "No, perhaps because they are both members of the sun, there may be some connection between them, but it is impossible to find the spiritual object." The development of things is the scene that Li Chengsheng least wants to see. He now hopes that the spiritual object is not in the remaining volcanoes, even if he continues to wonder and search for a few years. Alice, it would be better if he didn't sigh. This breath directly exposed his existence and caused the poisonous fire python to chase him. Li Chengsheng reacted instantly, and he didn't have time to regret it. He turned around and fled. "Monk, you are so brave that you dare to sneak into the depths of my clan." A huge python opened its mouth and looked at Li Chengsheng with desire in its eyes. Although it is huge, its speed is not slow. It swims quickly in the air and summons all the poisonous fire pythons to chase Li Chengsheng together. But he was very decisive. He ran to the middle of the tunnel and directly activated the escaping talisman to escape. Because Li Chengsheng knew in his heart that escaping on the territory of the demon clan would only put himself in a more dangerous situation. And those poisonous fire pythons could only vent their anger on the tunnel he dug because they could not find any trace of people. Li Chengsheng, who escaped from the poisonous python volcano, was not necessarily safe, because the distance of escaping underground was limited, and there was no way to leave the volcano group directly. Fortunately, he was lucky. The place where he appeared was close to the periphery, and there were no demon beasts. He fled to the outside world without stopping. After Li Chengsheng escaped from the volcano group, He went to a big immortal city, because his next plan required the help of many cultivators. The cultivators in the previous market were not only few in number, but also weak in strength. This kind of thing was not suitable for them. He didn't want to give up, but he was not strong enough, so he could only muddy the water to have a chance to get the spiritual object. And it's easy to fish in troubled waters, as long as you can come up with some specious evidence to arouse the greed of the cultivators. In order to hide his identity, Li Chengsheng pretended to be a young foundation-building cultivator, and then set up a stall in public to sell several third-level spiritual medicines. This practice soon attracted the attention of many interested people. He also pretended to accidentally let it slip and told the location where he got the spiritual medicine. But if there were only third-level spiritual medicines, it would be impossible to attract Yuanying's engine. So Li Chengsheng lied and said that he saw a fourth-level spiritual medicine with red flowers that bloomed like flames. It's a pity that he was shallow and couldn't recognize the spiritual medicine. The spiritual medicine described by Li Chengsheng is called Chixiao Shenhua, which is a rare spiritual medicine that can accelerate the transformation of the soul into yang. After saying this news, he was robbed and killed in front of several cultivators a few days later. Chapter 591 Entering the Mountain. Maybe some people doubted Li Chengsheng's words before, but after he died, no similar words were heard. And his death was like pouring a bucket of oil on the raging fire. Those words were known to everyone, even the nearby market and the fairy city. Located in the center of the fairy city, in an extremely gorgeous mansion. Brother Yan Liu, do you think the news that has been widely circulated in the city recently is true or false? The guard of the fire control sect asked curiously. I don't know. In the past few days, he heard about this matter from different cultivators, but no one could tell the details. Brother, if those rumors are true, it would be a great achievement for us, the junior brother said excitedly. According to that person's description, what he saw was the scarlet heaven divine flower, which is the treasure that all the elders in the sect dream of. With our strength, we can't personally seize this thing under the protection of the fourth-level demon, but if we report it directly to the sect, we can get a generous reward afterwards. The reason why he was so anxious was that many cultivators were gathering their teammates and planned to go and find out. Although those people were only at the foundation building and golden elixir levels, they were outnumbered. If someone got the scarlet heaven divine flower, they would not only not get a reward, but would be punished by the sect. What if all this is false? Yan Liu, who is always cautious by nature, frowned and said, we have an uncertain news and alarmed all the elders. If this is just a lie of that person, how can we defend ourselves? The junior brother was speechless for a moment. He was dazzled by the scarlet sky divine flower and the so-called reward, and did not think about it at all. Seeing this, Yan Liu shook his head secretly. His junior brother's character was really as bad as before. He said, just report the rumors truthfully. Don't add our opinions. Everything will be decided by the sect. In this way, whether it is true or false, it will not have much to do with them. It is the safest choice. Senior brother is smart, I am far inferior to him. After saying that, he hurriedly contacted the sect and reported the news in detail. Now there are many cultivators who are ready to move, but they are afraid of the strength of the monsters and dare not move. Li Chengsheng, the mastermind behind the scenes, saw all this. As for the current situation, he had actually expected it. It was deep in the volcano, and there were countless high-level monsters. Without the leadership of Yuanying's engine, there would be only one cultivator who could come out alive. Spiritual objects are precious, but they also need to be alive. So Li Chengsheng was very patient. He believed that with a red sky divine flower as bait, there would definitely be a Yuanying's engine who would take the bait. And the fact is indeed so. Even if it was just the word spread from the mouth of the foundation cultivator, and it was not certain whether there was a rare spiritual medicine like the red sky divine flower that accelerated a yang transformation of the soul, there was still a Yuanying's engine who went there in person. When this news spread, the foundation building and golden elixir cultivators who had been ready to move for a long time set off and flew to the red scale volcano as soon as possible. The volcano was the territory of the red scale wild crocodile. This kind of monster was famous for its ferocity and strong body. Once it started, it would not stop until it was dead. It's finally started. Li Chengsheng looked at the many monks in action, and a trace of expectation and excitement flashed across his face. He hoped that everything he did would be fulfilled as he wished, and he could get the solar spiritual object. Hiding his identity, Li Chengsheng followed the crowd and flew towards the volcanoes. A powerful and terrifying aura permeated the mountains. Those low-level monsters did not dare to show their heads at all, and at the same time, it also alarmed the high-level monsters in the depths. What is the madness of the human race? Sending so many monks here for no reason, are they planning to start a war? A fourth-level big monster walked back and forth in the cave in doubt, feeling very irritated. A war will kill people. And it just wanted to live the remaining decades in peace. Fortunately, not long after, it received news that the group of monks had a very clear destination and went straight to the Red Scale volcano. The old crocodile from Jilin? Did it offend the monks? The old demon thought for a long time but still had no clue. He simply put it aside and pretended not to provoke it. The demon beasts were not united. Instead, there were many gaps and contradictions. Especially the ferocious demon beasts like the red-scaled wild crocodile. It didn't even have any friendly races. Therefore, many big demons did not move their troops after discovering the destination of the monks. Their idea was to lose both sides and reap the benefits. No matter which side won, the loss would not be too small. When they took action again, they could not only capture a large number of monks, but also occupy the Jilin volcano. This is a large volcano with a fourth-level spiritual vein. If they could capture it, they could further expand their tribe and improve their strength. At this time, a large number of monks had already arrived in front of the Jilin volcano, led by 2 Yuanying's from the Yuhuo sect, followed by dozens of Jinden and hundreds of foundation-building monks. As for whether there were Yuanying's hiding nearby, Li Chengsheng didn't know. Such a big commotion naturally alarmed the fourth-level wild crocodile, who led a group of little demons to wait in a fierce battle. Evil beast, hand over the scarlet sky divine flower, and I will spare your life, one of the Yuanying's shouted from a high position. What a bullshit scarlet sky divine flower, I don't have it here. Although the strength of the cultivators was above it, the wild crocodile did not feel the slightest fear, and said with great disdain. It's not up to you to decide whether it has it or not. Get out of the way. Let my 2 brothers check it out in person. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? The wild crocodile was furious when he heard this. If it really did this, how could it have any face in these mountains? It immediately offered a huge mace and smashed it towards the cultivators. Come and die, stubborn, don't know what life and death are. The 2 Yuanying's snorted coldly and blocked the attack together. It seemed that they were evenly matched, but this was the result of the 2 of them joining forces. The wild crocodile's combat power was far superior to theirs. Ho ha, you 2 are nothing but that. The wild crocodile tested the strength of the 2. And the fear in his heart suddenly subsided. He laughed fiercely and roared, boys, come on. Kill all these monks. The monks would naturally not retreat. After all, they had the upper hand in numbers and strength, and the armor of the wild crocodile was a top-grade spiritual material for refining defensive magic tools, which was very valuable. Li Chengsheng watched the scene fall into melee, and he was secretly happy in his heart. During the battle, he quietly approached the volcano. When the distance was close enough, he instantly killed the second-level wild crocodile in front of him, used talismans and magic weapons to cover his own breath and body shape, and walked towards the inside of the volcano. Chapter 592 Anger. As soon as he entered the volcano, Li Chengsheng felt a burning sensation, which made him feel very uncomfortable. However, in order to hide his breath and figure, he could not do anything else and could only endure it. Only when he entered the interior and avoided the detection of monsters and monks did Li Chengsheng dare to stick 2 talismans to reduce the temperature on himself. He immediately released Chao Yongwu and asked expectantly, Chao Yuang, can you sense the location of the solar spirit? However, his answer disappointed Li Chengsheng. I didn't sense the existence of the solar spirit. This means that either the spirit in Li Chengsheng's divination result is not here, he found the wrong place, or the treasure is self-concealed and isolated from all perception. He has no way of knowing which situation it is. But there is a faint pressure in the depths of the volcano. When Li Chengsheng heard this, an idea suddenly emerged in his mind. Could there be a 4th-level red-scaled wild crocodile? Thinking of this, he immediately gave up the plan to explore carefully and turned around to leave. Although there must be a lot of good things in the volcano, Li Chengsheng cannot be the opponent of the 4th-level red-scaled wild crocodile, even if it is seriously injured, and once the fight breaks out, the outside world will definitely know. Don't leave yet, I don't feel any danger. This faint pressure is a bit like the one formed after the fall of a high-level monster, Chao Yong hurriedly called him. You mean, There is a corpse of a high-level monster deep in the volcano. Li Chengsheng heard this and his eyes lit up immediately. Why are there many high-level monsters in the wilderness that grew up from low-level monsters? Most of them have their own adventures. For example, they accidentally ate some kind of natural treasure, or swallowed high-level monsters of the same species and attributes, absorbing their blood to promote their own evolution. The so-called same species refers to the 5 categories of insects, scales, hair, feathers, and kun, and all living things belong to them. The same attributes are easy to understand: gold, wood, water, fire, earth, yin and yang, wind, thunder, ice, and other yin and yang, 5 elements, 3 wonders. Of course, nothing is absolute. There are also cases where different species and attributes are devoured and succeeded, but this is very rare. After all, whether it is a bloodline conflict or an attribute conflict, it is a very dangerous test that can easily take one's life. And this red-scaled wild crocodile got the corpse of a high-level monster from somewhere, probably for its own bloodline. Let's go and take a look. Since there is no danger, how can we go into the treasure mountain and return empty-handed? Following the guidance of Chaoyang Wu, Li Chengsheng soon came to the deepest part of the volcano. There are only 2 huge caves here, one of which exudes vitality. You don't need to look to know that this is the place where the red-scaled wild crocodile hatches and raises young animals. He has no intention of stealing the beast eggs, because the red-scaled wild crocodile is only the 3rd grade, and it is not in his eyes. The other one should be the cave of the 4th grade wild crocodile. He approached carefully and tried it out, and found that there was no trap. It seems that the wild crocodile is very confident in its own strength. How could it set up any tricks in the cave where it rests every day? Li Chengsheng strode in, and what caught his eye was a huge dragon corpse placed in the center. Sure enough, seeing that it was the corpse of a dragon, although Li Chengsheng had guessed it long ago, he still couldn't hide his disappointment. The 3 spirit beasts he contracted belonged to the feather category among the 5 categories, which is commonly known as birds, while the dragon and the wild crocodile both belonged to the scale category. Although they are all fire attributes, birds and scale monsters are the 2 categories with the most serious bloodline conflicts. It is said that the source is the battle between dragons and phoenixes in the ancient times, which has continued to this day. The hatred for each other has long become the most basic component of the bloodline. It has never been heard that there are monsters with both feather and scale bloodlines in the world. If Li Chengsheng dared to let Chaoyang Wu take the bloodline of the fire dragon, there would definitely be only one result, and that is death. It's the corpse of a 4th grade dragon beast after all. Even if I can't use it, I can take it back for other family members to use. With a wave of his hand, he put the corpse into the stored ring that had freed up all the space. In addition, there are all kinds of spiritual objects that the wild crocodile has collected over the years. They are all spiritual materials. There are no spiritual medicines or spiritual fruits, because these things have been eaten by long ago. Roar. When Li Chengsheng collected the dragon body, the wild crocodile, who was entangled with the 2 Yuanying, suddenly roared to the sky and roared, "Damn little thief, how dare you steal my treasure!" This time, it didn't care about the 2 Yuanyings, and only wanted to go back to the cave and stop the thief. The dragon corpse is the key to whether it can go further, and it must not be lost. Therefore, it left a mark on it, but just now, it lost the sense of the mark. When the 2 Yuanying heard this, they immediately used their spiritual sense to count their disciples. After finding that they were all there, their faces sank instantly. They fought to the death here, but they were picked by others. So, they didn't continue to entangle the wild crocodile, and let it go back to deal with the little thief. At the same time, they followed behind to see if they could pick up leaks or get other treasures. Not good. Li Chengsheng instantly felt a terrifying pressure rushing towards him. He immediately put Chaoyang Wu back into the spirit beast bag and wanted to activate the Earth Escape Talisman to escape, but he found a terrifying flame attacking him at a very fast speed. At the critical moment of life and death, he activated the soul-splitting jade slip given to him by Li Zhirui without hesitation. Li Zhirui, who was a million miles away, immediately felt it, but unfortunately the distance was too far and his consciousness could not be projected at all. "Dad, my son is in great trouble. Please help me buy a moment and destroy the jade slip by then. Don't let it fall into the hands of the monster," Li Chengsheng said at the fastest speed after Li Zhirui's soul splitting appeared. "Okay, I got it." The next moment after he finished speaking, The wild crocodile came to Li Chengsheng and said disdainfully, "You, a mere psychic, want to stop me? You are so bold. You dare to run into my cave to steal spiritual objects. Hand over the things quickly. I can let you die a little more pain, otherwise I will put your soul into the magma and let you be burned to ashes alive." "Humph," the psychic snorted coldly and said, "Evil beast, you don't take me seriously." After that, the psychic summoned a huge tree and smashed it at the wild crocodile. Li Chengsheng knew that the situation was urgent and could not be delayed at all, so he did not watch the fight between the two, but only concentrated on activating the Earth Escape Talisman. After a few breaths, the talisman was activated. "Dad, be careful, the child is gone." Before the voice fell, a yellow light wrapped Li Chengsheng up, and then escaped into the ground and disappeared. Damn it! The wild crocodile was instantly furious, and his already ferocious features became even more terrifying. His eyes were burning with rage, and he roared, "No matter where you escape, I will find you, torture you to death, and light your soul on fire." Chapter 593 Worry. Even with the strength of Li Zhirui himself, he was not as strong as this 4th-level wild crocodile, let alone a wisp of spirit. And he had just refined it not long after breaking through the nascent soul. In addition, the environment was extremely unfavorable to him. Fire overcomes wood, and the wood-type spells he cast would be easily broken by the wild crocodile. As for water-type spells, being inside the volcano, there was no moisture in the air at all, and he had to rely on his own mana to turn water, which consumed too much. Therefore, under the terrifying attack of the furious wild crocodile, the spirit was at a disadvantage from the beginning. But in a moment, the spirit was much dimmer. Fortunately, Li Chengsheng had already escaped at this time, and the spirit had no worries, so after continuing to entangle for a while, he took the initiative to destroy the jade slip and wiped out Li Chengsheng's breath. And the spirit without the jade slip to store and provide mana also instantly turned into nothingness and disappeared between heaven and earth. Roar. Damn it! Damn it! All the cultivators deserve to die. The actions before the spirit dissipated made the wild crocodile lose the evidence to track Li Chengsheng, which meant that the dragon corpse it had obtained with great difficulty was lost. The wild crocodile, filled with rage, could not find the culprit, so he turned his eyes to the other cultivators. "Brother, I'm afraid we have been deceived. All this is a lie made up by the thief who stole the spiritual objects. The purpose is to let us lead the wild crocodile out so as to achieve his own goal." The two Yuanings who quickly searched the volcano from top to bottom looked gloomy and terrible, especially after realizing that they were fooled. "Hurry up and gather the disciples to leave." Just at this time, the roar of the wild crocodile came out, and the senior brother said a little uneasy. Yes, although the two reacted quickly, the number of disciples they brought was not small, and most of them were still entangled with monsters and could not get away immediately. And the wild crocodile had already rushed out of the volcano and pounced on the cultivators, using its terrifying and powerful strength to slaughter those giant and foundation-building cultivators. For a moment, wailing was everywhere, and countless monks fell on this scorching land. The culprit who caused all this was completely unaware of this tragedy. But even if Li Chengsheng knew, he wouldn't feel anything. These people were not related to him, so what did their life or death have to do with him? Rather than saying that those monks took the risk to come in because they believed in his words, it would be better to say that they were greedy and wanted to get the decision made by those spiritual objects. Li Chengsheng is now running carefully in the volcano, fleeing to the outside world, and has no time to think about anything else. Banyan Island, far away in the corner of the Far East. Huh? Why is the jade slip broken? Li Zhirui felt that the distraction dissipated, his expression froze, and he hurriedly got up to go to the back hall to check Li Chengsheng's life card. Seeing that his life plate was intact, he breathed a sigh of relief and murmured, "Fortunately, everything is fine. Shenzhe should have escaped safely." What happened? Zhang Fengwu, who was just coming back from the door, saw Li Zhirui running to the back hall in horror. He couldn't help but have a bad thought in his mind. He hurriedly followed him and asked anxiously, "Is it Shui or Shenzhe who is in trouble?" No, they are both safe." Li Zhirui knew that Zhang Fengwu, who was in a hurry, might not listen to his explanation, so he handed over the life plates of the two. Huh? Zhang Fengwu was relieved after seeing the intact life plate, and said with some complaints, "Since they are fine, why were you so panicked just now? You really scared me to death." Shenzhe may have encountered some danger and activated the soul-distracting jade slip I gave him, but just now, I noticed that the soul-distracting jade slip had completely dissipated, so I thought Shender had an accident, so I was so anxious. Li Zhirui told the whole story, and then said, fortunately, his life plate is intact, he should have escaped. Where did Shender go to train? He hasn't come back after so many years. Zhang Fengwu's complaining words were full of worries, and Shu'er too, one or two of them. It really makes people restless. You don't have to worry about Shu'er. Li Zhirui shook his head and said, I met her in Zuanfazhao. Maybe when she comes back, she will bring a son-in-law to visit you, her mother-in-law. Why didn't you tell me? Zhang Fengwu eyed him lightly in dissatisfaction. It was because she was too busy. At the beginning, she was in seclusion. When she came out, she was experimenting with a formation to open up the spiritual realm. She was so busy that Li Zhirui forgot about it. Also, what's the matter with his son-in-law? Which male cultivator did Shu'er fall in love with? You should have met him. Do you know his background? Shu'er should not be moved yet. It's that man who has unrequited love and wants to pursue Shu'er. After a pause, Li Zhirui said, as for his background, although I am reluctant to admit it, I have to say that Shu'er is marrying above his station. What are you talking about? Zhang Fengwu was very dissatisfied with his words that belittled Li Changshuo, and glared at him. He's from Wankui Peak of Wangxiang sect, and is the last disciple of the old ancestor of Huishan. You can tell me whether Shu'er is marrying above his station, Li Zhirui said with a wry smile. I was able to sell high-quality elixirs safely and unscrupulously in Zuanfazhao at that time, and I was able to pull his banner. After hearing this, Zhang Fengwu was speechless, because she was unable to refute. After a long silence, she heard her say faintly, in the mortal world, it is said that equals are not equals. If Shu'er really marries him, we, as parents, will not be able to help her if she encounters any grievances in the future, especially Shu'er's physique. This is a big problem. Li Zhirui told Zhang Fengwu that he asked Wei Ningchen to swear an oath, and then shook his head and said, the Taoist oath can only be regarded as the last resort. The most important thing is strength. The iron must be strong before it can be forged. If one of them is a Huishan, then many concerns will not exist. Apart from other things, we have to give Huishan some face. You are right, Zhang Fengwu sighed softly. But how difficult is it to break through Huishan? Countless brilliant Yuanying's engines were stuck at this step until their lifespans ran out. Moreover, she had just broken through the Yuanying stage for a few decades. Li Zhirui was better off. He was now in the middle stage of the Yuanying stage, but he was still a long way from breaking through the Huishan stage. You can't rush cultivation. Take your time. At least I think Wei Ningchen really likes Shu'er, although sincerity is hard to sustain. Yet, Zhang Fengwu responded unconsciously. If possible, she didn't want Li Changshuo to find a Taoist partner. Even if she wanted to find one, it would be better if her strength and life experience were not as good as hers. Because her Cheyenne spirit body is the ultimate temptation for any male cultivator. When practicing dual cultivation, the other party is likely to be unable to restrain the desire in his heart. If the male cultivator is stronger, it is possible to reconcile yin and yang and turn it into yin replenishing yang. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 594 Alternation. Don't worry too much, maybe Shu'er doesn't like that kid, Li Zhirui comforted. There is not much they can do now, nothing more than to practice hard, improve their strength, and become Li Changshuo's strongest backing. You are right, so after I set up the Dongling Pakun formation, I will start to retreat. The Dongling Pakun formation is the formation they used to open up the spiritual realm before. There is no need to make any changes. Just find the right position and arrange the formation plate and formation flags in place. After the formation is successfully arranged, the Li family has another trump card. If the formation is suddenly activated without the other party's knowledge, it is very likely that a Yuanying's engine will be seriously injured and lose his combat ability. However, because this formation is too powerful, except for Zhang Fengwu and Li Zhirui who can operate it, other clansmen do not have enough mana to activate the formation due to insufficient strength. This is a relatively large defect, and Zhang Fengwu has no way to make up for it in a short period of time. I plan to go out for training. Li Zhirui pondered for a moment and said the decision he had just made recently. Jiang Fengwu was somewhat puzzled. After breaking through the nascent soul, each small realm requires a long period of accumulation. The yangization of the soul and the growth of mana are very time-consuming. Therefore, at this level, most nascent souls practice in seclusion in their own caves and rarely go out for training, unless they are about to break through. But Li Zhirui is still a long way from the late stage of the nascent soul, and there is no need to go out for training at this time. The main thing is to find an opportunity for Deking and Zhaoqing to break through, Li Zhirui explained. The two of them have been stagnant at the peak of the third level for nearly 100 years due to the rank of their bloodline. Even Deking, who is very patient, has become a lot more anxious now. In fact, the method of accumulating mana and strengthening bloodline that Li Zhirui accidentally discovered is effective, but the progress is very slow. According to Deking's own calculations, it will take at least more than 100 years for him to evolve his bloodline to the fourth level. By then, Li Zhirui may be ready to impact the god of transformation, and they are still evolving their bloodline, which will greatly slow down his cultivation speed and even implicate him. Zhaoqing's progress was even slower, and his character was not as good as Deking's. He had been thinking about going out to find opportunities for evolution for these years, but was stopped by Li Zhirui. After Jiang Fengwu heard this reason, he knew there was no reason to stop him. Speaking of which, her luck was really good, and she didn't need to worry about the 3 contracted spirit beasts. The first Fengpeng bird was so lucky that it actually had a rare bloodline reversion. Now its bloodline is roughly between the 4th and 5th grades. The 2 spirit beasts contracted later were gifts from the 2 Yuanying sects, the evening wind bluebird and the 5-color dragon carp, 2 4th-grade spirit beasts. Unlike Li Zhirui, before he broke through the Yuanying, the strength and status of the Li family were far less than now. At that time, the Li family was still a vassal of Shanli Mountain and had no chance to get high-grade spirit beasts. Therefore, he must now consider this and plan this matter. Then when are you going to leave? Li Zhirui thought for a moment and said, wait a few more months. I will save some more precious pills for the family, so as not to cut off the trade with those 2 families. This has become a very important source of spiritual stones for the Li family. The rest are spiritual pills below the 3rd level, talismans, magic tools, etc., which are low-level spiritual objects for independent practitioners. As for the 4th level precious pills refined by Li Zhirui, he now deliberately controls the sales quantity, and mainly uses spiritual seeds, pill formulas, etc., to trade in a barter manner. The main reason for this is that the number of 4th level spiritual medicines produced by the family is limited. If purchased from Nanya Chamber of Commerce and Zhuanfa Pavilion, the refined precious pills can only be sold to them, and the profit is not big enough. Therefore, Li Zhirui spends most of his time refining 3rd level spiritual pills, or deducing and perfecting pill formulas. Then I will refine a set of 4th level formations for you that are compatible with defense and concealment. During this period, Jiang Fengwu has been comprehending the formations in the jade slips of Minggao sect's inheritance, and has gained a lot. The formation she is talking about is the 5 elements mist-hidden formation, recorded in the jade slips. Li Zhirui did not refuse, and said expectantly, then I'll wait. I promise not to disappoint you. Thinking that they would be very busy for a long time in the future, they looked at each other tacitly and played around on the bed all night. The next morning, both of them walked to their respective skill rooms refreshed. For orthodox dual cultivation, the harmony of yin and yang is conducive to the growth of both parties' cultivation, which is good for both of them, and there will be no damage to their vitality. In the eyes of Li Zhirui now, the refining of the 3rd level elixir does not have any difficulty. If he speeds up, he can refine 2 furnaces of elixir in 1 hour. Of course, in this case, there is no way to guarantee the quality of the elixir. As for the 4th level treasure pill, even if Li Zhirui has refined it many times, he still needs to concentrate and take it seriously, because a slight negligence may ruin a furnace of precious spiritual medicine. Time passed quickly, and more than half a year passed in a flash. Li Zhirui handed over hundreds of bottles of 3rd level spiritual pills he had refined during this period to the new clan leader Li Darren. That's right, during this period, the Li family changed a clan leader. And unlike the previous downward transmission, this time it was upward. There is no way. As the clan leader of the Yuanying family, it is impossible for a foundation-building cultivator to serve, and the clan members of the next few generations of Li Zufeng have not yet produced a Jindan Tenrun. Therefore, there are very few candidates for this clan leader. Only Li Chengru, Li Chenglin, Li Shengwu, Li Darren, Li Dawen and other Jinden. Among them, Li Dawen has served as the clan leader and it is impossible for him to continue to take the position, so he was excluded first. Li Chengwu, because his mind is not delicate enough, and he is not interested in this, directly announced his voluntary withdrawal. And Li Chengwu wanted to pursue a higher realm and refused to participate in the election. Li Chenglin hesitated for a few days. He knew that it would be difficult for him to make further progress with his qualifications, but he was unwilling to give up. After a struggle, he withdrew. So, in the end, only Li Daring and some Jinden clan members who had recently broken through were left in this election. However, the latter, perhaps because of their youth and vigor, or because of their confidence, did not want to be entangled in too many mundane matters. Therefore, Li Daring, a Jinden monk who had served as an elder and had sufficient experience in handling affairs, was entrusted with the important task and became the new clan leader. Li Daring himself was also very satisfied with this, because it was well known that under normal circumstances, the clan leader would not leave the clan land, which meant that he would be very safe. This was a fatal temptation for Li Daring, who was afraid of death. How could he refuse? Chapter 595 Going Out. Dao Rong, these elixirs are for trading. I have recorded the trading objects and methods in detail in this jade slip. Don't make any mistakes. This is a very important source of spiritual stones for the family, Li Zhirui warned with a serious face. Don't worry, ancestor. I have learned about this transaction before, Li Daring said hurriedly. Li Zhirui nodded with satisfaction and said, it seems that you are very interested in being the patriarch. I will be back within 5 years if nothing unexpected happens during my training. These elixirs should be enough for the trading during this period. It's not that he is confident that he can find the opportunity to evolve the blood of Daoqing and Xiaoqing in 5 years, but that the elixirs will be sold out in 5 years, and he has to come back to refine another batch to maintain the transaction. Who made him the only one in the Li family who can refine such high-quality elixirs? If Li Zhirui was in the family, she might try to replace him, but she was still looking for an opportunity to break through the nascent soul stage. There was no news for many years, and she didn't even know where she was. She only knew that she was alive. If the family is in danger, you can ask Feng Wu to come out of retreat. She will stay on the island to practice for the next few years. Li Zhirui said all the instructions, and then stood up and left. Alice. It's not that easy to be the clan leader, Li Daring sighed faintly in the empty hall. Have you explained everything? After Li Zhirui returned to the cave, Zhang Fengwu handed him a new formation and said, this is the 5 elements mist hidden formation I refined. Ordinary Yuanying cultivators can't find your whereabouts. The most important thing is that the formation is very fast and simple. You just need to arrange the 5 formation flags according to the 5 elements pattern, and you just need to stand in the center holding the formation plate. Thank you for your hard work during this period. Li Zhirui's eyes were full of heartache. He knew how much effort Zhang Fengwu had put in to improve this formation. This was also the reason why he postponed going out for training. It should be. Did you prepare a lot of 4th level treasure pills for me? Zhang Fengwu smiled gently. Li Zhirui strode forward, took her into his arms, and hugged her tightly. It was a great blessing for him to be a Taoist partner with Zhang Fengwu. Perhaps because they were about to part, the two of them played a little ridiculously for a day and a night. Fortunately, Li Chengsheng and Li Chengshuo were not there, otherwise it would be a bit embarrassing. The next morning. I'm leaving. Li Zhirui gently kissed Zhang Fengwu on the mouth, his face full of reluctance, and said softly, you don't have to get up to see me off, you have a good rest, okay? Zhang Fengwu responded hoarsely. Creaking, accompanied by the sound of the door closing, Li Zhirui's figure disappeared from the room. Come back early. Zhang Fengwu looked at the closed door and murmured in a low voice. Daking, Zhaoqing, let's go. They had been waiting in the yard for a long time. Let's go. Zhaoqing couldn't wait to shout excitedly. If there was no formation in the clan land, he would have wanted to grab Li Zhirui and Daking and soar into the sky and leave Banyan Island. The reason why Zhaoqing couldn't wait was not only because of his own nature, but also because he had a crush on Zhang Fengwu's Fenpeng bird. But the other person had a noble bloodline and didn't look down on Zhaoqing at all, which made him feel very aggrieved. He wanted to save face, so he was particularly concerned about the matter of evolving his bloodline. Li Zhirui took Daking and Zhaoqing to fly away from Banyan Island quickly, and the island disappeared in an instant. However, they had no destination, just flying south. After all, no one knew where the spiritual creature that could make their bloodline evolve was. Brother Jiu, where are we going? After flying for several days, Daking suddenly remembered. I don't know either, let's just go with the flow for now. Daking felt that this was too inefficient, but he didn't know where to go, so he had to acquiesce to Li Zhirui's method. Zhaoqing, who was standing aside, had a clear idea and said, we can definitely find a suitable opportunity if we go to the open sea. When Li Zhirui heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, why didn't he think of it? If we were to ask where the most abundant resources are in Zuinitun realm, besides the central region, it would be the outer sea. For Daking and Zhaoqing, it is easier to encounter opportunities in the outer sea. Most of the turtles with higher bloodline grades are in the boundless sea. If they meet, Daking can strengthen his own bloodline by devouring them. Moreover, there are many storms on the sea, so the spiritual creatures produced in the outer sea, in addition to the huge number of water spiritual creatures, are mostly wind spiritual creatures. It seems that you have made sufficient preparations, Li Zhirui joked. I hope that your wishes will come true next, and you can also get the beauty. After deciding the destination so easily, he immediately turned the direction of the spiritual ship and flew towards the outer sea in the east. Because they are now far away from Banyan Island, there are many water monsters in the sea, but with Li Zhirui in charge, they dare not approach. On the contrary, Zhaoqing, who was planning to catch a few spiritual fish to fill his stomach, was attacked by a large number of water monsters at the same time as soon as he approached the sea, which made him very embarrassed. If he had not stabilized his body in time, he would probably have fallen into the sea. Zhaoqing hadn't felt so embarrassed for a long time, and the anger in his heart was ignited instantly. He summoned his magic power, and the spiritual light of his wings surged. He gathered all the wind around him, and a small tornado gradually turned into a huge storm, stirring up the seawater for several miles. A large number of low-level water monsters were caught in it, and the terrifying tearing force took the lives of one water monster after another. The originally azure storm turned into a dazzling scarlet in the end. Okay, come back quickly. Li Zhirui saw that Zhaoqing was still not satisfied and wanted to continue slaughtering low-level water monsters, so he quickly stopped him. If Zhaoqing was left alone, he would most likely bear the karma for slaughtering a large number of lives. Zhaoqing had to stop after hearing what Li Zhirui said. He snorted coldly and said, I'll let you go today. If it happens again, I will kill you all. After returning to the spirit ship, Li Zhirui, frowning, reminded Zhaoqing, you are too murderous. This is not a good thing. You should know that the higher the cultivation level, the higher the requirements for the heart. The heart demon tribulation is not a joke. At the end, Li Zhirui's face became extremely serious. If you don't polish your heart well next time, even if the bloodline successfully evolves, it will be difficult to break through to the 4th level. I know, I will correct it. Zhaoqing drooped his face and said words of submission, but there was still some disapproval in his eyes. Seeing this, Li Zhirui knew that he didn't listen to his words. He shook his head secretly in his heart, but didn't continue to talk, because if he continued to teach Zhaoqing a lesson, he would probably explode. Chapter 596 Impatience. Brother Jiu, are you still worried about Zhaoqing? Daking saw Li Zhirui sitting silently at the helm and came over to ask. Li Zhirui sighed sadly. Yes, why is his character getting worse and worse? In recent years, because Daking and Zhaoqing's cultivation has not made a breakthrough, their strength cannot keep up with Li Zhirui, so for their safety, Li Zhirui will not take them with him if he needs to go out to solve something. In addition, he is very busy and has no time to pay attention to them, so he feels very abrupt and puzzled about their changes. Maybe it's because Zhaoqing's strength has not improved for too long, making her character more impatient and unstable. It should be better when she finds a spiritual object, Daking speculated. Although Daking has also been focusing on his own cultivation and his descendants in recent years, he still knows Zhaoqing better than Li Zhirui. I hope so, Li Zhirui sighed. If Zhaoqing is still like this, even if he finds some natural treasures, he dare not give it to Zhaoqing. Because if the breakthrough fails, the consequences will be disastrous. And with his current character, the possibility of failure is very high. Don't worry, it's okay. Li Zhirui rubbed his eyebrows and said, go check on Zhaoqing. We are about to enter the outer sea, so we have to restrain our breath. Stimulating one's own breath in the inner sea can deter those low-level water monsters, but if you do the same in the outer sea, it's no different from seeking death. You know, the strength of the water monsters in the two seas is very different. Even the third-level water monsters are rare in the inner sea, but there are a large number of fourth-level water monsters and even fifth-level water monsters in the outer sea. It's not a place where they can be presumptuous. After Daking left, Li Zhirui immediately merged the spirit ship into the white clouds, and cast a spell to cover up their breath. From the outside, they couldn't be found at all. But this way, there is a disadvantage, that is, the flying speed of the spirit ship cannot be too fast, otherwise it will reveal a flaw. The boundless sea is worthy of its name, vast and boundless, and there is no end in sight. Moreover, Li Zhirui did not dare to go too deep, because the farther away from the mainland, the stronger the water monsters, and the higher the probability of encountering high-level water monsters. The three of them flew aimlessly on the sea for several days. At first, they were amazed at the scenery of the boundless sea, but after a long time, they just felt bored and boring. It seems that the outer sea is not as rumored as it is, full of spiritual creatures. Zhaoking curled his lips, looking disappointed and impatient. Boom boom, but he didn't expect that as soon as he finished speaking, a roar came from the distance. Brother Jiu, hurry. Let's go over and take a look. Zhaoking's expression suddenly became excited, and he urged repeatedly. Okay, Li Zhirui also wanted to see what was going on. Maybe there was still a chance to pick up leaks. A white cloud swayed and floated towards the location where the battle broke out. About half an hour later, they finally arrived at the battlefield. However, two huge water monsters were seen fighting fiercely on the sea. The giant octopus's tentacles waved, causing a series of huge waves. Its opponent was a huge whale with sharp horns. The sharp horns were glowing with spiritual light. And the cold air spread, freezing the surrounding sea area and directly eliminating the octopus's attack. What is the reason for these two sea monsters to fight? Li Zhirui murmured, his eyes flashing with spiritual light, looking for clues nearby. Although water monsters may also start fighting without saying a word, two fourth-level water monsters will never do such a thing. Without sufficient benefits, they will not take action unless they are mortal enemies or have offended each other. After all, there are many crises in the outer sea. If they do this, they will weaken their strength. If they are targeted by other water monsters, they will be in danger. It seems that the spiritual object they are fighting for has been collected by one of them. Li Zhirui searched for a long time, but did not find any clues about the spiritual object. Hand over the deep sea ice. I will let you go, otherwise you won't be able to escape when my people arrive, the unicorn tried to threaten. Unlike the giant octopus, the unicorn is a social monster. Therefore, under normal circumstances, few water monsters will take the initiative to provoke the unicorn. Wishful thinking, the giant octopus knew this, but it still did not give up, because the deep sea ice could improve its strength and make it one step closer to the fifth level. If you don't agree, you can't say more. The two giant beasts fought fiercely again. Deep sea ice, Li Zhirui and the other two in the sky also heard their conversation and were a little eager to move. Deep sea ice, a fourth-level spiritual object, is rumored to be formed by a group of extremely cold spiritual energy that absorbed a large amount of water spiritual energy, so it is not a material for refining, but a piece of pure ice spiritual energy. Although Daking and Zhaoking are not ice-attributed spiritual beasts and cannot use this spiritual object, this spiritual object is very valuable. If it is sold to an ice spiritual root cultivator, the price will not be less than 500,000 spiritual stones. Wait a little longer, now is not the best time to act. Li Zhirui restrained Daking and Zhaoking, asking them to hide their breath and not expose themselves. Looking at the breath of the two water monsters, it is known that they still have sufficient mana. If they act at this time, they will definitely be attacked by them together. But if we wait any longer, the group of giant unicorn whales will come, Zhaoking urged anxiously. Li Zhirui shook his head and said mysteriously, don't worry. The giant octopus still has some tricks to use, we just need to keep an eye on it. Time passed by bit, and the breath of the giant octopus became weaker and weaker. Especially when it sensed that there were several huge breaths coming towards it from a distance, it suddenly revealed a flaw in panic and was hit by the giant whale. Zhaoking, who had been unable to hold back for a long time, saw that the situation was not good, and immediately threw Li Zhirui's words behind her, and suddenly tried to stop the giant whale from continuing to attack. The moment he took action, all the methods that Li Zhirui had used before were broken, and they were directly exposed to the two water monsters. Human monk, The giant whale looked at the scene in front of him with some astonishment, wondering why a human monk suddenly appeared. Ha 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 ha. Thank you, stupid bird, for your help. I'll go first. The giant octopus, who had originally planned to use a secret method to save his life, laughed loudly. Then the world became pitch black, and Li Zhirui and the others couldn't even see a foot in front of them. Alice, Li Zhirui sighed helplessly and asked Decking to control the spirit ship to fly north. He cast a spell again to hide the spirit ship. After a while, the spirit ship flew out of the place covered by a black fog and merged into a huge white cloud. Chapter 597 Lessons. The giant whale followed closely behind and also swam out of the world shrouded in darkness. Its huge spiritual consciousness burst out and carefully searched every corner. But unfortunately, it did not find the whereabouts of Li Zhirui and his men. It had no choice but to give up. Roar! The roar of the giant whale spread all around, and the other giant whales that were rushing towards it responded immediately. Suddenly, a series of roars spread outward. From a distance, the voices of different water monsters could be heard. Li Zhirui's face became very ugly, because the voices of the unicorn whale and the water monsters in the distance were conveying a message to all the nearby water monsters that someone had entered the outer sea. Although Li Zhirui had been prepared in his heart that their whereabouts would be exposed sooner or later, this was too sudden, and it was too fast. They had only been in the outer sea for a few days and had not gained anything yet. Brother Jiu, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have disobeyed you and acted on my own to destroy your calculations. Zhao King walked up to Li Zhirui with a face full of shame and bowed his head to admit his mistake. Alice, Li Zhirui didn't say anything, but just sighed softly. But this reaction made Zhao King even more panicked and uneasy. He hurriedly said, Brother Jiu, you can scold me severely. If you feel that it is not enough to vent your anger, it doesn't matter if you hit me, it's not that serious. Even if my plan is realized, it may not be possible to take down the giant octopus. Li Zhirui did not teach him a lesson. Instead, he smiled and comforted him, it's okay. Just remember not to be so impulsive and anxious next time. Well, I know, I will definitely control myself. Zhao King lowered his head, his eyes were red, and there were tears in them. This time, he really realized the consequences of his over-impulsiveness. You go back to the bow first and continue to be alert ahead. Li Zhirui looked at Zhao King's dejected back, and a trace of apology flashed in his eyes. He knew that he should not calculate people close to him, but if he didn't do so, he was worried that Zhao King would go further and further on the wrong path. Why didn't he make it clear before? It was to rouse Zhao King's impulse and let him take action to destroy his plan. But in fact, Li Zhirui had never thought about how to take the deep-sea black ice from the giant octopus, because he couldn't track the giant octopus at all. He just knew that the giant octopus had a racial magic that could break off a limb and escape. Under the circumstances at that time, if the giant octopus didn't want to be surrounded by the unicorn whale, it could only use this magic to escape. So Li Zhirui told Zhao King not to worry. But for Zhao King, who had already had the idea of rebellion in his heart, such words not only couldn't persuade him, but would stimulate him and make him take action. Then the result can be imagined. With Zhao King's strength, a sudden shot would only interrupt the rhythm, and it would not play a big role at all. It was mainly because the exposure of Li Zhirui, the human race, distracted the unicorn whale and was caught by the giant octopus to escape. Zhao King didn't think that this was Li Zhirui's calculation at all, but only thought that it was because he didn't listen, let the giant octopus escape, and missed the deep-sea black ice. The bystander is clear. Decking, who watched the whole process from the outside, guessed Li Zhirui's calculation, but he had no intention of exposing it, because if this could change Zhao King, it would be a great joy. In the next few days, Li Zhirui had been secretly observing Zhao King's situation and found that he was indeed much calmer. He was very happy in his heart. If Zhao King could continue to maintain it, he would be relieved. Brother Jiu, I found a violent fluctuation of spiritual energy coming from the front. There should be another water monster fighting. Zhao King, who was sitting cross-legged on the bow, told Li Zhirui as soon as he noticed something was wrong. Go over and see the situation first. If it were the previous Zhao King, he would definitely be impatient to let Li Zhirui rush over. The spirit ship floated, and when they approached the battlefield, they found that there was an acquaintance among the two fighting water monsters, that is, the giant octopus that had obtained the deep-sea black ice before. It got the black ice, but instead of finding a place to take and refine it, why did it fight with the water monster again? Li Zhirui looked at the two fiercely fighting water monsters with a puzzled look. There is no need to introduce the giant octopus too much, and the one that is entangled with it is a yellow striped thunder snake that is dozens of feet long. From the perspective of size, it is not much inferior. Moreover, in the fight, the yellow striped thunder snake has a slight advantage. Under the powerful thunder strikes, the giant octopus looks very embarrassed. The giant octopus secretly thought that it was unlucky. It originally thought that it was lucky and did not pay much, and it easily got rid of the attack of the giant narwhal. But it did not expect that its good luck was only temporary. On the way back to the cave, it actually encountered a blood enemy like the yellow striped thunder snake. The giant octopus and the yellow striped thunder snake, both water monsters, feed on each other. This is the hatred engraved deep in the blood, and the pursuit of food. Therefore, once they meet, they will fight to the death. As for killing people and seizing treasures, they have to put it aside. The giant octopus, which is slightly weaker in strength, is at a disadvantage in this fight. Brother Jiu, wait until they are both injured before we start, Zhao King asked softly. Wait a minute, Li Zhirui knew the hatred between the two tribes, but he didn't know whether the yellow-striped raiders had the means to restrain the giant octopus from breaking off its limbs and escaping. If they did, they might be able to wait for the situation Zhao King described. After all, the giant octopus couldn't escape and could only fight for its life. But if the giant octopus escaped successfully, they would just watch a wonderful and fierce battle and would not gain anything. Because Li Zhirui could neither catch up with a desperate giant octopus nor be the opponent of the yellow-striped raiders, a fourth-level late-stage monster. As time went on, the giant octopus's situation became more and more difficult, and even two huge wounds appeared on its body. The loss of blood and ki further weakened its strength. The giant octopus knew that if it continued to fight, it would probably die, so it could only use its race's magical powers to escape from here. I saw a huge tentacle fall off from it, and instantly turned into its appearance. And then the giant octopus and its body were wrapped in spiritual light, and they quickly fled to the distance. The two spiritual lights, whether in size, breadth, or other aspects, were exactly the same, and there was no difference between the two. I've been waiting for you, the yellow-striped lightning snake grinned, and its terrifying vertical pupils flashed with cruelty and confidence. As an enemy that had been entangled with it for so many years, how could it not know the disadvantages of the giant octopus's magical power? When the opponent used his magical power and was about to escape, a powerful lightning suddenly erupted from the lightning snake's body, spreading in all directions along the seawater. The powerful lightning did not injure the giant octopus that defended in time, but it directly wiped out its clone. Chapter 598 Fate. Is this the magical power of the giant octopus? No wonder you told me not to act rashly at the beginning, Brother 9, Xiao Qing murmured in a trance. They didn't know the weakness of this magical power before, let alone stop the opponent. It seems that the battle should be over soon, Da Qing judged. After all, the situation is very clear now. The lightning snake has an absolute advantage, and the giant octopus is already injured. This time, it has lost one of its tentacles, and the injury has become more serious. Brother 9, is it time for us to take action? Da Qing's heart became excited. The lightning snake didn't know how precious the spiritual objects on the giant octopus were, but they knew. They didn't expect to solve all the two water monsters, as long as they took away the body of the giant octopus in the end. Wait a little longer, the two tribes have been entangled for countless years, and the giant octopus tribe cannot have no way to restrain it. It must have something that has not been used. Let it continue to help weaken the strength of the lightning snake. Li Zhirui always felt that things would not be so simple, and observed for a moment to ensure that there was no mistake. Just surrender obediently, don't resist stubbornly, it will only bring you trouble. Razor has already put on a victorious attitude and said condescendingly. Ha, the giant octopus sneered, do you really think I'm so easy to bully? Sensing the broken arm, it was very close to Razor, and a trace of cruelty flashed in its eyes, and it instantly detonated it. Boom boom, a terrifying explosion burst out from the sea, and huge waves of hundreds of feet were seen everywhere. The raging waves turned the nearby sea upside down, like the situation before the destruction of the world. Razor was caught off guard and was swept into the turbulent sea. Although it was not injured, it became very embarrassed. But before Razor could break free from it, a white mist with a breath of death swept over quickly, and everything it passed was instantly frozen, and the nearby sea area turned into a cold area of ice and snow. and the huge razor was also frozen in it. For a moment, the offensive and defensive trends reversed. The giant octopus, which was not favored by Da Qing, now held the spiritual sword that dominated the life of the thunder snake. Give up. You can't escape. Looking at the thunder snake struggling in the ice, the giant octopus showed a grim smile on his face and said, "This is the cold air I used my own origin to cast, a gift specially prepared for you. Do you like it?" Li Zhirui and the other two in the cloud took a breath of cold air when they heard this. Who would have thought that it would be so cruel to them and even consume the origin? You know, to some extent, the origin is more precious than the soul. After all, there are still some spiritual objects that can restore and treat the soul, but there are very few spiritual objects that can restore the origin. And I'm afraid it had made a plan a long time ago, and the magical power of breaking off limbs to escape was just one part of the plan. The giant octopus held this spiritual sword and stabbed it into the heart of the thunder snake. It would not give the other party time to struggle at all. If there was any accident, it would be the unlucky one in the end. What a great move. Li Zhirui didn't expect to see a reversal. This kind of creature should either not be offended, or once offended, it must be eradicated and no future troubles will be left. Looking at the giant octopus with most of its mana consumed and seriously injured, Li Zhirui knew that the time for him to take action had come. You stay on the spirit ship, and after I fight with the giant octopus, you take action to collect the body of the lightning snake, Li Zhirui instructed. Seeing that Deking and Zhao King were about to speak, Li Zhirui waved his hand and interrupted, "I know you want to help, but even if the other party is seriously injured, you can't fight against it." Hearing this, the two had to give up, but a raging fire ignited in their hearts, and they became more eager to break through the fourth level. "Brother Jiu, be careful." Li Zhirui nodded, without saying anything else, and immediately activated his mana, sacrificed kindling, and countless roots flew out in an instant, entangled with the giant octopus. Damn it! The face of the seriously injured giant octopus changed drastically. It didn't expect that after it had finally killed the thunder snake, a Yuanying cultivator actually came. Without saying a word, it turned around and fled, without any intention of fighting. "Where are you going to run to?" Li Zhirui stretched out his hand and pointed forward, and a thick water wall instantly blocked its way. The root system behind it also caught up and quickly wove a cage to trap the giant octopus in it. "I am willing to give you all the spiritual objects in my hands, just ask you to let me live." The giant octopus, which had little fighting power, tried to buy its life with money. "If you die, those spiritual objects will still belong to me." Li Zhirui was not moved at all. "I also know an underwater treasure house with a lot of treasures in it. I can tell you its location." Li Zhirui shook his head again and said, "Maybe the treasure house you mentioned really exists, then why are you still here? This kind of place is definitely very dangerous." No matter what the giant octopus said, Li Zhirui had no intention of letting it go, especially after seeing that it was stalling for time. He didn't wait any longer. Its idea was very simple, that is, it hoped that a fourth-level water demon would appear nearby. Regardless of whether it was of the same race or not, it would definitely help rescue it because of the common enemy of the human race. Unfortunately, its luck was not very good. Until it died, no fourth-level water demon passed by. Li Zhirui waved his hand and put the body of the giant octopus into the space, while Deking and the others had already separated the body of the thunder snake from the ice. They originally planned to put it into the storage ring, but found that the space was not big enough, so they had no choice but to give up and leave it to Li Zhirui to deal with. "Let's go. It is not advisable to stay on the battlefield for too long." Zhao King called for a gust of wind to completely blow away their breath, and the three of them immediately boarded the spirit ship and floated away from here. "You go into the space and count the spirit objects of these two fourth-level monsters. He also needs to drive the spirit ship and guard the surroundings." "Okay," the two agreed very happily, and they also wanted to see it. When Li Zhirui was the only one left on the boat, he was thinking about how to deal with the two water demon bodies. The corpse of the thunder snake can be used to extract a fourth-grade thunder snake bloodline, which may be used by the family's spiritual beast in the future. As for the bloodline of the giant octopus, there is no need to waste time and energy to refine it. Because this kind of spiritual beast is not suitable for the contract at all, it is better to separate some fourth-grade spiritual objects to see if there is any need. After Li Zhirui and his friends left, only half an hour later, several fourth-grade water monsters came to the battlefield. Although there were no fourth-grade water monsters at that time, there were many third-grade water monsters. They were weak and dared not show up, but they could report to their own king. That's why several fourth-grade water monsters arrived one after another. Chapter 599, Enlightenment. Brother Jiu, they don't carry many spiritual objects with them, and the most precious one is the deep-sea black ice. About half an hour later, Daqing and Xiaoqing left the space with a dull look on their faces, with disappointment that could not be concealed. They thought that they were two fourth-level water monsters, and they were born in the outer sea with abundant resources, so they must have a lot of spiritual objects in their hands, but the ending was disappointing. They are fourth-level monsters after all, and they are qualified to open caves in the sea. Of course, they won't carry those precious spiritual objects with them. Li Zhirui had expected this, so he accepted it calmly. The reason why they put the spiritual objects in the cave is that if they encounter an accident, those spiritual objects can also help the younger generations improve their strength and continue their own bloodline. The second is that they would rather let those spiritual objects never see the light of day and turn into ashes than to kill their own murderers easily. Seeing that Daqing and Xiaoqing were still unwilling, Li Zhirui laughed and shook his head, took the spiritual objects they had sorted out, quickly scanned the inside of the storage ring with his spiritual sense, and nodded with satisfaction. Not bad. In addition to the deep-sea black ice, there are several fourth-level spiritual objects, not to mention that there are many low-level spiritual objects, which are not as bad as Daqing and others said. You keep an eye on the surroundings. I will first go into the space to refine the blood of the thunder snake, and by the way, disassemble the useful spiritual objects from the giant octopus's body. Li Zhirui earnestly warned. No matter how strong the water monster is, or other emergencies, don't care. Don't do it. Everything will wait for me to come out. Once they do it, their spirit ship will be exposed. Without Li Zhirui, they can't continue to hide. At that time, they may be besieged by the water monsters. After all, there is a strong human breath in the spirit ship. I know, don't worry. With a steady Daqing around, Li Zhirui was indeed much more at ease, and he flashed into the space. Refining blood doesn't sound like a simple thing, but in fact, it is just like refining spiritual materials. Use spiritual fire to burn all impurities into ashes, leaving only the most precious part. The corpse of the fourth-level monster was very strong. Li Zhirui used his own Dan fire to burn it for more than an hour before he really started to refine the blood. As time went by, a large amount of black impurities fell, and in the end only a small ball of crystal-clear blood was left. Li Zhirui exhaled a breath of turbid air, put the essence in blood in a fine jade bottle, and then affixed a spirit-sealing talisman and put it into the warehouse of the space. Because the space area is getting bigger and bigger, Li Zhirui specially built a small house to store various precious spiritual objects. It's a pity that the evolutionary root of the thunder snake is the sky snake, not the dragon clan, otherwise the family can have another thunder dragon branch. Li Zhirui sighed with some regret. While Li Zhirui was refining his blood, Daqing and Xiaoqing were very careful to guard the surroundings on the spirit ship. They would be on high alert if there was any slight movement. During this period, they also encountered two third-level water monsters fighting each other. The two sides were evenly matched and neither could do anything to the other. If they had not remembered Li Zhirui's instructions, they would have wanted to solve them. They were just two third-level water monsters. Not to mention that they were injured. Even if they were intact, they were not their opponents. In the end, they could only watch them leave. This vast ocean is so boring, Xiaoqing complained. We seem to have never seen an island along the way. Daqing thought for a while and said, it seems that because the human race and the sea race fought for the ownership of the sea area, the sea race came out in full force and barely blocked the human race in the outer sea. Since then, the outer sea does not allow islands to exist on the sea surface. In this way, even if the human race tears up the agreement and attacks again, the sea race will have an absolute advantage. After all, without an island, the human race would have no place to stand. We can't rely on flying magic tools, right? If we really do this, the low-level monks with less mana will not be able to hold on for long, and will fall into danger due to insufficient mana. Although it is not difficult for a great monk to create an island, it consumes a lot of mana, and the great monk has a respected status. How many people are willing to do this kind of hard work? No wonder the Sea Clan can occupy such a large area. The spirit ship was silent for a moment, and Xiaoqing asked again, do you think we can find an opportunity to evolve? I don't know either. Speaking of this, Daqing was also very confused. It is said that the boundless sea is rich in resources, but they may not be able to get it. However, You have to believe in Brother Jiu. He will definitely try his best to help us. Daking believed it firmly. Whether it is the friendship that has accompanied them for hundreds of years, or the fate that cannot be cut off because of the contract, Li Zhirui can't just let it go. Besides, even if our luck is really bad, don't we still have a last resort? Duckwing said with a smile. You know, not everyone can take out so many spiritual fruits and spiritual pills for spiritual beasts to take. Over the years, the resources that Li Zhirui has invested in them are enough for the Li family to train dozens of clansmen who have completed the foundation building. Even if these people are not competitive, with Xian Qingdan and Jijindan, they can at least give birth to 5 or 6 giant cultivators, right? With better luck, maybe a dozen of them can successfully pass the tribulation and condense the golden elixir. This will greatly enhance the strength of the Li family and reduce the pressure on the Li family due to the lack of giant cultivators. But with such a huge amount of resources, Li Zhirui gave them all without blinking an eye. What you said is that I shouldn't have blamed Brother Nine before. I missed him. Xiaoqing thought of all his actions here, lowered his head and said softly. He only saw the low efficiency and that he needed to polish it carefully for hundreds of years before he could see the hope of evolution, but he didn't see the efforts behind it. Moreover, hundreds of years is not a long time for them. As giant-level monsters, their lifespan is much longer than that of giant monks. They don't have to worry about the lifespan at all. Zhaoqing fell into deep self-blame and apology. Daking looked at him and knew that his plan was successful. He should have completely untied Zhaoqing's heart knot. Li Zhirui's previous approach only slightly improved Zhaoqing's situation, but over time, it would become solid. Daking did this to completely untie his heart knot and make him change fundamentally. It's not that Li Zhirui didn't know the drawbacks, but he couldn't think of a better way for a while, and Daking was just in time this time. The spirit ship became extremely quiet until Li Zhirui came out of the space and broke the atmosphere on the spirit ship. What's wrong? He saw Zhaoqing in a low mood and asked with a puzzled look. Could it be that Zhaoqing didn't listen again and took action on his own? That's not right. The spell he cast on the spirit ship is still there. Chapter 600 Storm. Brother Jiu, I'm sorry. I should have blamed you and contradicted you before, thinking that you didn't consider us. Zhaoqing sincerely apologized to Li Zhirui. This scene made Li Zhirui stunned on the spot. He only went to the space for a few hours. How could Zhaoqing have changed so much? Seeing Daking winking at him, Li Zhirui understood instantly and shook his head and said, It doesn't matter. It's been so long since the incident happened. If you didn't say it, I would have forgotten it. I'm also very relieved that you can see it clearly now. Li Zhirui comforted Zhaoqing, who was not very emotional, and asked him to go back to the cabin to rest first, and then asked in a voice transmission, Daking, what did you say to him? How did Zhaoqing become like this in such a short time? It was also a coincidence that I just talked about it. Daking repeated their conversation just now. In this way, Zhaoqing's character should not be a big problem. Li Zhirui was also very happy about this. Next, as long as they find a spiritual object that allows their bloodline to evolve, they can retreat and break through the 4th level. At the same time, in his portable space, a mature fenki grass that was about to bloom and bear fruit suddenly had a little fire flashing, absorbing the nearby spiritual energy with a whale swallowing momentum, and the fenki grass near it seemed to have been drained of its essence and vitality, and began to wither gradually. As for the changes that occurred in the space, Li Zhirui still didn't know. About half a year later. During this period, Li Zhirui and his team encountered many battles, but only fought once, because most of them were 3rd-level water monsters fighting, and it was not worth fighting for them. Because Li Zhirui's whereabouts had been discovered by the Sea Clan. And they didn't care whether Li Zhirui just came to experience or had other purposes. In short, cultivators were not allowed in the outer sea, so there were many 4th-level water monsters looking for his traces on the sea surface recently. With intensive patrols, how could Li Zhirui dare to act rashly? To be on the safe side, he also activated the 5 elements mist hidden formation prepared for him by Jiang Fengwu. For several months, no trace of the human race was found. The Sea Clan thought that Li Zhirui should have left, so they ended the patrol. Li Zhirui observed for a few days and found that the water monster had indeed stopped, so he decided to take action. The only time he took action, he killed a wounded 4th-level water monster. In addition to the spiritual objects it carried with it, the biggest gain was the pair of claws and crab shell, both of which were very good 4th-level spiritual objects. Why did the spiritual energy between heaven and earth suddenly become agitated? Li Zhirui opened his eyes suddenly, frowned, and a trace of uneasiness appeared in his eyes. Daking, Zhaoqing, come to me. If something unexpected really happened, he could also take them to hide in the space for refuge in time. Brother Jiu, what's wrong? They were not practicing, and their realm was not high enough, so they naturally did not notice the changes in the spiritual energy. It seems that something big is going to happen. I called you here just in case. The two people's faces changed slightly. What exactly happened? Li Zhirui actually warned them in advance, and their expressions were not very good. Brother Jiu, the wind spiritual energy is gathering in a certain direction. Zhaoqing noticed it, or it was no longer necessary to notice it. Even if she looked, she could see it. A dozen miles away from them, a sea storm is forming. After seeing the hurricane, Li Zhirui's eyes showed a complex look, both excited and nervous. The excitement is that a giant storm will breed a top-level wind-running spiritual object in the center. If they can get it, then Zhaoqing's evolution will be no problem. The nervousness is because the storm is so powerful that even a Yuaning's engine may be seriously injured if he enters the eye of the storm, and the movement is so loud that it will definitely attract many water monsters. So Li Zhirui is now considering whether to take the risk. While thinking, the spirit ship was actually moving towards the storm. It seems that God has made a choice for me. Li Zhirui did not hesitate at all, and took the initiative to drive the spirit ship and flew towards the storm. Brother Jiu, what are you doing? Daking was frightened by his actions and hurriedly shouted, stop. This kind of disaster caused by the great power of heaven and earth is not something we can contend with. Brother Jiu, I have sensed the eye of the storm, the precious spiritual object, which will be of great help to our bloodline. Zhaoqing's eyes were instantly occupied by desire, and he wanted to rush in now. When Daking heard this, he understood instantly and congratulated him repeatedly. Congratulations. A trace of envy appeared in his eyes. Now Zhaoqing's opportunity has come. What about his? Let's go and try, Li Zhirui said in a deep voice. When the time comes, I will take you back to the space, and I will personally go into the eye of the storm to take away the spiritual object. Not to mention that he couldn't guarantee how long it would take. The main reason was that the storm was too noisy and could be seen from 1,000 miles around. There would definitely be many water monsters coming. Leaving Daking and Zhaoqing outside would be too dangerous. And when he got the spiritual object, he could hide directly in the space, and those water monsters couldn't do anything to him. Brother Jiu, I want to try it myself, Zhaoqing suddenly said. Please help guard outside with Daking and don't let anyone in. I can definitely get the spiritual object. Li Zhirui couldn't help but frown when he heard this. Zhaoqing's body was indeed well polished, but in the storm, he would definitely be injured. If it was serious, it was not impossible for him to die. He was about to refuse, but seeing the stubbornness and persistence on Zhaoqing's face, he finally gave in. Then you be careful. If you can't hold on, tell me immediately. Zhaoqing didn't say anything else, but nodded solemnly. Soon, they entered the range of the storm. Li Zhirui took action to stabilize the spiritual ship to prevent it from being swept into the hurricane, while Zhaoqing flew out of the spiritual ship and directly broke into the huge tornado. Brother Jiu, will Zhaoqing be okay? Daking looked at the figure that appeared and disappeared in the storm with a worried look on his face. If something unexpected happened, the consequences would be disastrous. I don't know either. Li Zhirui sighed and took action to cover up their breath. To be honest, he regretted it now, but now that things have come to this, he can only hope that Zhaoqing can successfully obtain the spiritual object and return safely. The creatures attracted by the movement of the storm are not only Li Zhirui and his group, but also many water monsters. If there were only 1 or 2 water monsters, Li Zhirui could still stop them from entering to disturb Zhaoqing, but there were too many of them, and they were still rushing here continuously. With his strength, he could not do it at all, and could only watch them go in. In fact, most of them do not have wind attributes, and it is impossible for them to take them even if they get them. They just think that the spiritual objects are precious and can be used to exchange for resources, so they rush here. There are also many water monsters hiding in the sea not far away, planning to ambush the water monsters that escaped from the storm. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.